Welcome to Munich as a new era begins in biathlon with the inaugural Loop 1 Festival. The Bavarian capital hosts the first ever biathlon season opening to take place away from the snow here in the stunning Olympic Park, and what a venue it is. One of the most iconic in Germany, with over 50 years of history after being rebuilt for the 1972 Olympic Games. And really, there's no more fitting place to kick off the 25-26 season, which of course contains the 25th Winter Olympics. The action comes thick and fast this morning and into the afternoon as well, with 4 heats for the men, followed by 4 qualifying heats, of course, for the women as well, as we narrow down our stacked fields to just 2 finals of 15. Plenty of fast-paced action, of course, to come today. And to talk you through all the nuances of racing on roller skis is former British biathlete turned coach Scott Dixon. Scott, what excitement we have in store for us today.
It's going to be just fantastic, and such an amazing lineup of all the best biathletes in the world coming here to this fantastically organized event. And we can expect some real drama with a very fresh format, and I'm really excited to walk through that process and see all the drama as it unfolds.
Absolutely. Well, we are taking now just a very quick look at the course for today. Of course, we've seen plenty of shots over the opening of the program, of the range that has been built here on the water. It really is spectacular. This paints a perfect picture of what the athletes will experience over the course of the day. As we said, we narrowed down our stacked fields full of top talent who we will see racing through the course of the winter, with the season getting underway in just over a month's time. Busy season ahead, and what a place to kick it off. So we'll run you through the format for today. The qualifying runs consist of 4 heats with between 12 and 15 athletes in each. It's a super sprint format. 3 loops of 1.8 kilometres around the beautiful Olympic Lake, which you've just seen on roller skis. 2 shooting stages per round, and qualifying first in the prone position, then standing. Of course, a distance there of 50 metres with the small caliber rifles. No reloads. And for each missed shot, a penalty lap must be run. Scott, I know this is something that you're particularly excited about seeing. No reloads. You've got to take your way round the penalty loop, but that just adds to the drama and the action, of course.
It's so exciting, and it is just, again, one reason why this is going to be such an exciting event. Every miss comes with it an absolute direct consequence of a very short penalty loop. So yes, there is going to be that factored into the biathlete's mindset when they hit the mat. It's going to be fast-paced shooting, but also there's very little by way of hills, and hills are commonly a place where strategically you want to try and open a gap or gain time on your competitors, but lacking that, it is going to be a fast-paced race.
So here we go. Here is the start list for qualifying Heat 1. Sturla Holmberg. Well, what a season he had last time round, the World Cup winner. And what a season this could be for the man who looks to add to his impressive trophy cabinet at the Olympic Games in a few months' time. He comes into this, though, Scott, with a huge target on his back, probably for the first time in his World Cup career.
Yeah, and when he rose to the top initially, he was somewhat shocked by his success. And now that he's at the very highest, the pinnacle of performance, and a very hard-won reality that was last season, is going to change the dynamic. But we've seen him tackle those dynamics before, sometimes successfully and sometimes really having to fight through it. But at the end of the day now, we're going to see how their summer training has come along, and there's not long to go before the winter, so this really is going to be a demonstration of their performance.
And also, as a lot of the athletes have spoken about in the build-up to this, saying that they get to do it with a slightly more relaxed setting. Of course, you can see the crowds there who will be packed into the range. 9,500. It's a sellout who will be behind the lake here watching on. The athletes now receiving their tracking tags. It's a very different format as well when we get started as well. We have rolling starts, We'll see in particular a big formation loop before the finals later on, which allows the fans who have made their way down to the Olympic Park to get up close and personal for an extra lap. They'll want to take every part of this, won't they, and see the athletes for as long as possible, particularly with it being such quick loops and short loops, fast-paced in the qualifying stages. So we will have an extra formation lap before the final, as they'll be brought down from BMW World, which is just over the hill on the other side of the Olympic Park. But there is an extra level of excitement, Scott, for these athletes. It's something new, it's something different ahead of a season, which will of course bring so much pressure.
It is. There's a bit of novelty there as well, as we see Takna trying to escape the timing chip there. But yeah, it's a different format, and it's so exciting. It's possibly in line with the way that the audience is going, needing some faster pace, more excitement, more thrills, more changing of dynamics. I mean, I'm sold on any biathlon dynamic. I am a hardcore fan, but I think that there is a changing of direction, and this really is representative of that openness to explore new ideas.
And the athletes, well, they have done a lot in terms of their contributions to this format. Lots of discussions amongst the national federations, the biathletes themselves, and of course the IBU. And it has been so well received. Not just the athletes, but the public as well, as the athletes make their way, of course, round into this start line, the grid formation. All in preparation. A very different look start to the biathlon season, as plenty of happy faces and great representation across plenty of nations as we see this first group of athletes wait to get underway. The top three in each of the heats will qualify through to the final automatically, and then there is lucky loser spaces as well, and some slight nuances into that, which we will talk you through as the race day evolves. Let's meet some of the key protagonists in this first heat. Johannes Dahle wearing bib number 4. Split between the World Cup and the IBU Cup last season. Philipp Navlat, the highest ranked German on the men's side last season, finishing 14th in the total score. Performed well in the sprint and Kontiolahti. And of course the man with the target on his back, Stella Holmberg, 3-time world champion, total score winner. And to the side of him, the man wearing bib number 2, Fabien Claude of France, the Olympic silver medalist. He will look once again to add to his list of honours at the Olympic Games this winter. Final stretches, the final introductions done over the PA. The crowd watching on. They packed out the stands yesterday for the junior and para races. Back for day 2, and we cannot wait to get started.
Ja, also taktieren jetzt zu sagen, oh, ich schone mich fürs Hauptrennen, ist einfach nicht, weil wenn ich mich jetzt schone...
You see the ear protections there for Fabien Claude.
And here we go, we're underway at the Loop 1 Festival, the inaugural Loop 1 Festival here in Munich, and the first of 4 qualifying heats. The top 3 going through automatically, and it's a great start for Fabien Claude, who has jumped Stella Holmberg to his side.
That's an extremely aggressive start for sure. I think taking advantage of the narrowness and hopefully trying to make an early break and really pulling the whole field apart with this very aggressive first 400 meters.
So Scott, as we go through this early first lap, talk us through some of the nuances, the key differences that these athletes will be experiencing on roller skis. Of course, they will have spent a lot of the summer on them, so it's not the big jump in terms of changes, but what are the differences racing in these conditions?
Well, they will be very familiar with the skis because this is how they train, but you can see how narrow the track is here. And with that in mind, it is going to be a case of jostling for position early. As you can see, Fabian Claude is very well aware of that, stretching the field. But those further back have had to move aside from one another just to make sure that they can actually get on the track safely. But it's narrow, and I think that's the key difference here, is that in the roller ski tracks they're familiar with, there's lots of space. But this narrowness is going to play a strategic impact on their races today.
So a very quick start indeed for Fabien Claude. Let's just maybe dropped off the pace slightly to allow those behind him back onto his shoulder. It was such an explosive start to this race. He wanted to get out of the blocks well. He had a favourable position, of course, on the grid, and he has the world number one, the World Cup total score winner, just behind him. The first time check we will get will be through the 1 kilometre markers. Just looks to one side and lets the ride come through.
Yeah, he's not wanting to take all of the upfront wind, so taking advantage of Lagride being willing to go past and share the lead.
And so there are the splits at 1 kilometre, with Stella Humler-Glide just being invited around the outside of Fabien Claude, Philipp Navrat in third, with Johannes Dali Shevdal down in fourth. Remember, the top three going through automatically, and then we have the 3 fastest lucky losers. And there is some nuance into who will take those lucky losers spots. If one of the 4 of Germany, Sweden, Norway and France do not have representatives in the final, then their athletes, the fastest of their athletes, will be promoted into the final 15. Although, of course, Scott, when you look at the way these heats have been seeded, it does seem incredibly unlikely that that rule may come into play.
Absolutely, and it's nice to see that the top nations have been split amongst the heats so that there is a maximum of 2 per heat, and that will certainly factor in the end result, but they're now entering into the shooting phase.
So into the range we come. Stella Humler-Glide leading by 0.4 of a second from Fabien Claude. So he will drop down into the prone position. Our first shooting stage of the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich. Starting quickly, it's a miss for René Zachner. 2 misses now, twice around the penalty loop. He'll go. Stella Humler-Glide starts on a miss. It's a bad day to start for René Zachner. It'll be 3 times round. Terry Seppler gets away clean. So does Victor Blandt. Fabien Claude, Philipp Navrat as well, all going well and avoiding the penalty loop, and that does shake things up after just 1 lap.
Wow, yeah, what excitement, and you can see here how busy the penalty loop is going to get. But for those sharp shooters, Victor Brandt taking a surprising lead initially up front.
And he does come out with a 1.4 second advantage over Fabien Claude. And this is just how things can chop and change, not just in these shorter formats, but of course across the sport as a whole, which keeps it, well, ever so exciting.
And the stakes are so high for just 2 visits to the shooting range, and you can see already the implications of those misses. That is going to be very hard to reclaim on this very flat terrain. So being up front now certainly has a disproportionately large advantage coming into the stand than you would expect even in a typical biathlon on snow race.
Yeah, when you look at the differences coming out of shooting one, as we look back at the shooting of Stella Humler-Glide, 13.5 seconds he trails Victor Blandt owing to just 1 miss. And so round we go again, the stunning Olympic Park here in Munich. What a venue it is, hosted, well, so many important, historic, iconic events, not just in the world of sport, but of course music and fashion as well over the years. And the people of Munich take a real pride in. And now something different this time round.
It's of course impossible to measure exactly how much a penalty loop costs in a race like this, but you can see that those who have missed 1 are some 15 seconds down, and then for those who have missed 2, some 30. So it looks like you can expect about 15 seconds for a penalty loop, which is just a little bit more than were they to use spare rounds. Of course, spare rounds, you don't know if you're going to hit the target, so there is that additional element at stake.
So it is the man wearing bib number 7, Victor Blunt, the 26-year-old from Sweden. Broke into the top 10 on a World Cup race for the first time in the pursuit in Oslo. And he did improve on his ski speed last season as well. He leads the athletes through 2.8 kilometres with Fabien Claude too far behind him. Saint-Germain as well, someone who's hotly tipped, of course, for great things in the future. He's in third with Philipp Navrat, just outside 1 second behind. There's now the pack who have missed one come through. And we will have some wait to see those who have missed more than the one shot in the first visit to the range.
So exciting about this format is that the stakes are just so high, with so few going to be selected to go through into the next round. That is, of course, possible that somebody or a heat could be so incredibly fast that all of the lucky losers could come from that heat. But I wouldn't say it's likely by any stretch. So it does really mean that if you're not in the top 3 right now, you should be very afraid, and you need to hit those targets in the upcoming stand shoot.
Very little margin for error as we see our leading pack of 5 come into shooting 2. No shoot done, so this will be the stand. Of course, just 2 shooting stages in this super sprint format. And on position 1, Victor Blunt. Quick to his first shot in the prone position. Will it be the same here in standing? It is. Miss for Maxime Germain. It's for Fabien Claude. Victor Blunt has stayed perfect so far, and he is perfect on the day as well. A brilliant start for the Swede, who is away fastest. And disappointment for the German, though. 3 misses, 3 times around the penalty loop, and that is Philipp Navrat well out of the qualifying places.
Like Ride doing fantastic there to get himself forward with that clean 5 for 5, but not as fast as Victor Branson. You saw the graphic there on the right with some exceptionally accurate shooting, despite what would have been some serious fatigue. As we see there, Germain, USA, in 4th place currently, skipping up the hill.
And so it is Victor Blunt. Sepala, the man behind him, the highest ranked Finnish male last season on the World Cup. 2.2 seconds separate him from the leader. Stella Holmberg 10 seconds back, and then 3.1 the difference between Stella Holmberg and Maxime Germain, who did improve a lot last season. Across the board improvements and a 12th place finish in the sprint at the World Championships. Here is the shooting of Victor Blunt.
Absolutely fantastic shooting there. You could see the trembling of the rifle. It wasn't perfectly steady, but the entry to the target was very disciplined, very controlled, and that's what matters most in stand shooting.
And so here are our leaders, and it is Tero Seppala, whose shooting we're seeing just there, and there were a couple of nervy moments with 2 of those shots.
Yeah, 2 very edge shots there, unlike Victor Brandt with that really impeccable shooting. That group is something to envy, even in prone shooting for some people, not on the World Cup perhaps, but those who are beginning in biathlon. So fantastic accuracy under a great deal of pressure.
And so it is Tero Seppala pushing the pace. Tucked in behind him is Victor Brandt. Here is Stella Holmberg, who wears bib number 1. Pursued by Maxime Germain. He needs to keep pushing here. The World Cup total score winner.
Absolutely, he definitely has a fight on his hands with Germain. He'll be hungry to close that gap. But for Brandt and Seppala, it's not totally necessary to keep up such a high intensity. They'll be able to, at some point throughout this lap, ease off the pace just a little bit. They've got a final to think about later on today.
You can see the gritted teeth there of Stella Holmberg as he comes through just inside 10 seconds behind the pace of Telo Seppala. Maxime Germain, even though he is in that 4th place position, which wouldn't guarantee him automatic qualification, he'll be looking to push on in terms of his pacing on the skis as well. Try and give him the best shot of one of these lucky loser positions.
Well, he's managed to maintain that 3 seconds perfectly on Lagride, and you can see from the facial expressions of Lagride, he's suffering. And these courses do have an unusual way of punishing biathletes because there's no rest and recovery. It's just full-on intensity from the start.
And they'll hear the hum of the music and the noise from the crowd as they're back on the purple carpet and making their way around into the stadium. They'll be welcomed home. The top 2 in Heat 1, and what a spectacular way to get things started here at the Loop 1 Festival. Tero Seppala across the line first and automatically into the final. Alongside him, Victor Blunt, with perfect shooting on the day from those two, with Stella Holmberg just one miss. He's followed across the line by Maxime Germain, who will have to wait and see if his time is enough. Fabien Claude made to pay for those 2 missed shots. Of course, Johannes Dahle-Chevdal in a very similar position as well, and as Philip Navrat comes across the line as well. It can all change, Scott, in the blink of an eye, and there'll be plenty of those athletes going in the later heats, and the women as well, who are watching on and starting to pick up some of the nuances. The coaches as well, I'm sure, feeding stuff back in just how those coming later on will approach this race.
Well, yes, you can see that already there are some strategic components about the racing. We saw some fast starts, we saw very fast shooting, and the benefits that you can get from drafting. So all of these factors are going to be noted, and for those future heats taken forward. And we saw that for Fabien Claude, he didn't actually manage to reap the benefits of his early dynamic start.
So all the athletes in the first of our 4 heats welcomed home across the line. And a really intriguing way to start the day. Top 3 going through automatically. Tero Seppala, Victor Blunt, and Stella Holmberg with a smile on the face of Maxime Germain. And let's just take a look. You mentioned it there. The quick start, of course, from Fabien Claude, but made to pay for his missed shots in the end.
Absolutely, and it's a really cutthroat sport here, and certainly this format, with it only being 5 prone and 5 stand, it really puts the emphasis on the shooting. And it's almost, as they've come across the line, it's very much in line with their misses and hits, with only a small bit of variation from the very fastest skiers. So if you go the perfect 10 for 10, they cross the line first. If you miss just one, you cross the line second, third, fourth. So it's yeah, very much in accordance with your accuracy and the range where you're going to finish, quite likely as these races and heats unfold.
Safely through is the World Cup total score winner from last season. Alongside him, Victor Blunt. There's some really impressive shooting today. And, well, it's not out of the realms of possibility that Fabien Claude's time could be enough. We will just have to wait and see as to how the heats that will follow on from this one, how quickly the athletes make their way round. As Scott said earlier, 3 lucky losers, 4 heats, and if you have one exceptionally fast heat, all 3 of those lucky losers could come from that one heat. A big performance from Tero Seppala, who really bided his time through the first lap. It was shooting 2, which changed everything. And this is the position you want to be in, Scott, isn't it? That of Tero Seppala and Victor Blunt, and you can add Stella Holmberg in it, but particularly the first 2 across the line. Their job done, nice and early, go and cool down, recover, and they are bound for the final.
Absolutely, and that's a relief, especially given how many big names are not going to be quite so comfortable with their finishes. So now it's going to be recovery. It's how do they get all their fluids in and make sure that they're well rested and then optimally prepared for the afternoon race, which will be a mixture of resting, eating, and then watching the remaining heats to establish where they can make strategic gains over their opponents. Such a great atmosphere here, and the Germans are never short of enthusiasm when it comes to biathlon.
Well, absolutely. We're not too far away from Ruhpolding. That's something a few of the German biathletes have spoken about, is how good it is to be not too far away from one of the big bases of biathlon in Germany. There's the crowd, very engaged. We'll expect to see that crowd grow and grow throughout the day. Of course, the two big finals coming later on this afternoon. But 7 more heats to go across both of the genders. And what a spectacular venue. It really is breathtaking, isn't it, the Olympic Park here in Munich. And so, we are very quickly on to Heat 2. Eric Perrault going in this one. What a season he had. As we look very briefly down the start list. Who catches your eye in this one, Scott?
Martin Oldal. He's just so fast, and he shoots so incredibly fast. We've all seen the reels and the TikToks and the shorts. He can get a first shot down in sub 7 seconds, and that's crazy. It's definitely going to be hard to do that under this intensity, but I've said that before, and he's managed it under incredible physical intensities and got the targets down. So I think he's one of my favorites, but next to Eric Perrault, it's going to be a challenge.
So Sweden already have one man in the final. Can Jesper Nälin make it too? To the side of him, his compatriot, Martin Ponsiluoma. Struggled through last season, the 30-year-old. Did manage to end on somewhat of a high just before the break with the podium in the short individual in Pokluka. Finishing 3rd. Eric Perrault, though, what a season he had. 3rd overall, still only 24 years old. He is the future of this sport. Solo world champion as well for the first time in Lenzerheide in the individual, taking bronze in the pursuit as well. And when you talk about futures of the sport, Martin Oldal bursting onto the scene last season at senior level. And well, those pink poles of his have become quite iconic. What a battle we have in store for us, we hope, between the two who are side by side at the front. Eric Perrault shone at the early part of last season, along with a lot of the French team, with the way that they were able to come onto the World Cup circuit with such precision in their shooting. And I'm sure this year there will be maybe the odd Guinness World Record in terms of quickest time for a first shot. That may end up going Martin Oldal's way.
Yeah,
certainly got officially signed off last season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so unexpected to be able to take the rifle off your back, get into position, load a magazine, all of those factors combined, and then to hit the target in less than 10 seconds is impressive, let alone less than 7.
We speak a lot, of course, around their retirement, of how the Boer brothers shaped the sport, and Martin Oldal already leaving his mark at the very early stages of his career. And so we're away in Heat 2 for the men in the Loop 1 Festival. Eric Perrault and Martin Oldal side by side. Just tucked in behind them is Martin Ponsiluoma, and Jesper Nälin has made a good start as well, wearing bib number 19. In comparison, Scott, though, to the first of our heats, we haven't got someone jumping off the front. Maybe lessons learnt from Heat 1.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the strategic benefit would be of going super fast at the start. Of course, there is a very sharp left-hander, and it is very narrow, so you do want to be clear of any trouble particularly ahead of an Olympic season. You don't want to be having a fall now. Even getting a bad graze would be really inconvenient. But perhaps it's this corner right here where the advantage of having a much more spread out field really comes into play.
It is a really tight bend there, and of course then goes into this narrow section with the advertising boards and the barriers on each side. As they come round for their first loop of the lake. 3 laps, 2 shooting stages, starting in prone, following up by the standing.
Matthew Chronicle there at the back, just clinging on to the back of the field. And Uldal so comfortable and relaxed up there at the front, leading what seems to be a very controlled pace. And I would say controlled is the word that I would use for Uldal and Perot. Both of them are so disciplined, so focused. And when it comes to their shooting routine, it's rigid. They are very consistent. They do the same thing every time. And when it works, it works very, very effectively.
I remember reading some excellent articles, or interviews with the French coaching staff on the shooting side, saying their key aims going into the Olympic cycle was to improve on the shooting, make that accuracy as consistent as possible. And we saw, of course, through last season just how good they can be. So this is the 1 kilometre checkpoint that the athletes are coming up to now. Martin Uldal will be the first to break the line, with Eric Perot just tucked in behind him. Within a second back is Jesper Nylén, Thierry Longer of Belgium, the 33-year-old who had 3 top 15 finishes on the World Cup last season, including a top 10 in the short individual in Kontiolahti. He's just trailing. But all still tightly bunched together, all within 5 seconds. The 14 going in this field. And great, as you mentioned the name of Matthew Chronicle, of course, Scott, to see so many of the smaller nations represented across the board in these heats and on the women's side as well.
Yeah, and a testament to the biathlon family ethos that is always talked about and always followed through on by the IBU, managing to support smaller nations, bring them up, and really foster this culture of mutual support. And it works. You've managed to gain, or the IBU has managed to get such a fantastic field of biathletes from across the board here, and that will only continue to grow the sport as the years go by.
Greece, Australia, Great Britain, Brazil, amongst those nations represented here at Loop 1 Festival. And into shooting 1 we go. Back in the range as the crowds build behind. 6 seconds, just over the 14 in this field. Separated by, as they drop down into the prone position, it's quickly down into the position for Eric Perot. Taking his time. Misfoot, double answer. And that's with 2 from 2. Kutchmar as well. Thierry Longer has gone 3 from 3. Eric Perot is perfect, 5 from 5. It's a miss for Uldal. And once again, this pack has been shaken up. And Uldal will be once around the penalty loop.
Oh, fantastic shooting there from Matthew Chronicle, 5 for 5. That's absolutely excellent from the Brit. And now this was a slower heat than the previous, 9 seconds down in terms of the speed to the first shoot.
And that, of course, will all be fed back to the athletes, and particularly for those who are just outside the top 3. Eric Perot leads the way as they come out of shooting 1. Kutchmar in second, just half a second behind the Frenchman, the leader. Vidmar of Slovenia coming out 5.4 seconds behind, but with perfect shooting. And Didier Bionats, the other man who shot clean, alongside Matthew Chronicle, of course, as well.
You can see Perot there, his left eye just shutting very briefly before he pulls the trigger.
So Martin Uldal, 15.2 seconds down. How does he need to approach this second lap now, Scott, because he cannot hold back?
Well, I would say that with 15 seconds down, it is possible for Uldal to claim back a whole 7 seconds in shooting alone, but he has to hit the targets, and of course that's not a given by any stretch. But assuming he is able to hit the targets, he is able to claim back 7 of those just from the shooting, and the remaining would have to come from a very quick final lap indeed, and relying on some of the others to miss at this point.
Well, just saw there, it's great that we're getting the graphics of the target. Of course, that new for this season, and there is an app that was advertised, of course, yesterday. If you head over to the Biathlon World Instagram, advertised by Nicholas Hartvig, that you can watch along with the shooting and the targets on your phone, and we will, of course, bring you a glimpse of those once the athletes leave shooting. But it was a very lucky second shot for Didier Bien, that's just sneaking in and tripping the target. So this is now, as they come towards it, with Eric Perrault leading, wearing bib number 16, the 2.8 kilometre mark.
And Perrault will be very relaxed, very controlled, and I suspect we'll see a very consistent rhythm between every single shot in the stand-shoot visit to this race. Klitschmar still keeping good pace. He's actually just gained a fraction of a second. Of course, the Olympic silver medalist in the sprint in 2018. He has an excellent record in these shorter formats. Oldal dropping to 17 seconds, losing time as opposed to gaining.
And great to see the support already building around the course here in Munich. The only ticketed section of the course is the main stand behind the range. Everywhere else is accessible to members of the public. All the way down and watch biathlon right on their doorstep, and bringing it to the people of Munich as we come into the range for the second time. Klitschmar leading, and it's Eric Perrault who has just slowed slightly, allowed the Czech athlete through to come into the standing shoot.
This is what they've been doing all summer long, preparing on roller skis, coming into the range with a very high heart rate, and now they have the introduction of severe pressure as Perrault manages to get his first shot down but misses the second. The third goes high left for Perrault, and he misses the final shot. Not a good day for Klitschmar either, now missing 3 shots. And Bayanas, he manages to get his first down, fails to get the second. And so far, there are no clear shooters, with Ponsaloma now potentially seizing the opportunity but failing, with Langer the first to go 5 for 5.
Well, Thierry Longer taking advantage of those ahead of him falling. A miss for Martin Oldal as well. And it is the Belgian Thierry Longer who will make his way out of shooting 2 and around the final lap in the lead. Perrault, with 2 drop shots, does trail, but only by 3.9 seconds, with now Anton Vidmar of Slovenia up into 3rd. Martin Oldal, well, he's not too far behind. He has work to do, though, if he's to secure his place in the final in the top 3.
Yeah, and Vidmar, he's going to have to get tucked right in behind Perrault and really take advantage of the slipstream, because he does not have the pace on the roller skis as Perrault does.
Well, just as we were talking about in that first heat, Scott, how important accuracy is. And that was a real show of how everything can change. He had a little bit of luck with his 4th shot, just on the side Thierry Longer, but missing 1 in his first shoot, clean in his second, and now leading the way in the second heat of the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich.
Absolutely, and Oldal, he actually didn't shoot as fast as I had anticipated. He's currently 4th fastest, with Perrault being the fastest, and that's with 17 seconds. But Oldal, 20 seconds for his shoot, but it was an accurate shoot, and it got him back into 4th place. So in with a chance of closing the gap and potentially either getting a lucky loser or getting up there and getting past Vidmar for a spot in the top 3.
When you look at the rate in which Anton Vidmar has found his way onto the back of our front 3, and as the shot widens there, we still cannot see Martin Oldal. And just how short these laps are, 1.8 kilometres. There is, with every push, the increasing possibility that Martin Oldal will fall outside of the top 3 here.
Well, Perot there sensing that the pace at the front just wasn't quite fast enough, deciding to get ahead of Langer, who has done a really fantastic job up till this point. But Perot really asserting the dominance of the top 3 and keeping the gap between them as a trio and the hungrily chasing Oldal, currently in 4th.
Yeah, he hasn't been able to make much of a dent into the time of those ahead of him. Shaving off 0.9 of a second, but it won't be enough with just 400 meters to go. And it will be Martin Oldal who will fall out of the top 3. And we'll have to wait and see, but Scott already mentioned it wasn't the fastest first lap in comparison to the first heat that got underway. And with now Eric Perot trying to push the pace a little bit more on this 3rd and final lap, you do fear, obviously you have to wait for confirmation of the times at the end, that this wasn't quite as quick as the first heat.
Yeah, 10:35 is the time after at the 4.6. That was from Sipola, and here we have 10:55. So it's not actually as far apart as I had anticipated, but still, there is a significant gap.
And with only 3 lucky loser positions, the gap needs to be as small as possible. So Eric Perot from Vidmar and Thierry Longer across the line. And this event, with just 2 heats in, already throwing up surprises. No one clean shooting in heat 2. A slightly slower heat. It's a huge amount in it, but it does mean that it is advantage heat 1 in the race for lucky loser, with Martin Oldal of Norway finishing 8.1 seconds behind that time of Eric Perot.
Quite an incredible performance there from Matthew Chronicle, 38.1 seconds behind, and that's with 1 miss, so a great job there from the Brit.
He spent a lot of time this summer training at altitude and has been collecting athletes to train with across along the road, including a group from the IBU Cup coming over to train with him in France, of Norwegian youngsters. And I think, having spoken to him this week, that he's enjoyed having so many different nationalities to train around. They'll give different perspectives, and particularly when you come from a smaller nation, it's important to use those connections as and when you can.
Yeah, take advantage of every opportunity, and I think that's really the culture among the lower nations. They're given a lot of opportunities, they take them and they reap the benefits from them.
So here's a look back at the start with Martin Oldal deciding to lead it out, but it wasn't the flying start that we saw from Fabien Claude, but still falling outside of the top 3. A slower first lap. It's a real lack of clean shooting. Two misses for Eric Perot. It was a disastrous final shoot from the man who was just trailing him and doing so well. Klitschmar of Czechia. And such a great record in these shorter, sharper races. Unable to make his results stick, though, with a disaster in the final shooting. And a nod of the head, raise of the fist from Eric Perot, safely through to this afternoon's final, with Anton Vidmar and Thierry Langer heat 2 to join him from heat 2. Well, we've seen 2 very different races already. As our final athlete from heat 2 rolls across the line and challenges today out on the course for Todev, Michael Todev of Bulgaria.
Bit of a surprising length of time behind, and I think with 2 misses we can expect there to have been something wrong for that gap to have opened up.
So here's confirmation of the results from Heat 2 of the Super Sprint qualification here at the Loop 1 Biathlon Opening Festival in Munich. Eric Perrault, Anton Widmer and Thierry Lange through to the final automatically. We will have to wait and see when the official times then become published. If Martin Uldal was able to find enough on the final lap. 2 more qualifying heats for the men to go. So 2 heats down, Scott, 2 to go for the men. What have you made of the Biathlon Opening Loop 1 Festival so far?
I am absolutely enthralled by this format. I love it, and it's just going to build and build as the day goes on. It's so exciting. There's so many opportunities for biathletes who aren't typically up there, such as Lange in that previous heat, to do well, and that's what we love about biathlon, is the unpredictability, and this format really has demonstrated so far that it is unpredictable, it is exciting, and we're going to see a lot more of that to come, particularly for the finals.
When you look at the nations already represented in the final, Sweden, Finland, Norway, France, Slovenia and Belgium, and we are only 2 heats in. So here is the third, and this a really intriguing battle. The penultimate heat with Quentin Fillon-Maillet on pole position to start things off. For Björn Sörlem alongside him, just a Strela going in this one as well, Vítězslav Hornig. Well, this is a real stacked field, Scott, particularly when you look at the experience of the athletes in these heats.
It absolutely is, and we have Olympic medalists and we have youngsters coming through alike, and Lucas Hofer, really one of the most experienced, as we can see him on the screen now. Really revolutionized putting the rifle on the back early on and shooting fast, and it's so interesting to see that generation give way to the likes of Uldal.
Of course, a home Olympic Games approaching for Lucas Hofer, who's represented Italy at 4 games so far. As we make our way round the start line, Vítězslav Hornig, the World Championship silver medalist in the relay. A really impressive medal in Lenzerheide. Just the Strelo, 2-time World Championship bronze medalist in the relays. When you look at the trophy cabinets, the medals that these athletes have amongst them, and no more than this man, Quentin Fillon-Maillet, total score winner, 2-time Olympic champion. Golds in 2022 in the individual and pursuit, and alongside him, Björn Sörlem, his first World Cup total score, top 10 finish overall last season, and the first World Cup win in the individual in Ruhpolding, of course, not too far away from where we're based today in Munich. Well, his good record on German snow translate to the concrete here of the Olympic Park. DNS, unfortunately, for Apostolos Angelis of Greece. His World Cup debut almost a decade ago, and we hope to welcome him back to the World Cup circuit this winter. So the anticipation building, the front row, Fillon-Maillet and Sörlem. An intriguing clash with just 3 automatic qualifying spots for the final up for grabs in this penultimate heat in the Loop 1 Festival.
You can see Sörlem there getting out fast, getting ahead of Quentin Fillon-Maillet, who looked perfectly willing to let him go past, with Hornig of Czechia getting close on his heels, trying to get up front as quickly as he can.
certainly worth keeping an eye on Vítězslav Hornig in this race, the 26-year-old. Huge season last season. Of course, we've already mentioned the World Championship silver medal in the relay. Only once has that performance been bettered by a Czech team at the World Championships. But also 3 top 10 finishes on the World Cup circuit and a huge improvement in particular on the skis. So keep your eyes out for the man wearing 34, Vítězslav Hornig. He could, when you look at the way that this race and the heats before have panned out, he could be a big contender in this one. Tucked in down in 5th at the moment, with Sölum leading the way from Fiolmaye.
Such a beautifully effortless technique from Sölum at the front. It really does look like he's just cruising along there, and I can assure you it's at a very quick speed. That would punish the vast majority of humans on this planet, but made to look so easy by these biathletes. Quentin Fiolmaye tucked right in behind him and taking advantage of his slipstream.
When you talk about the technique, Scott, it was one of the huge improvements. He did have improvements across the board in general on the World Cup, of course, last season, Sölum, but when you look at his ski speed, it was truly impressive the way he managed to step up. How much of that would just be general fitness and how much of that would be really making sure that technique's on point?
Technique becomes the 1%, like the Team Sky philosophy. At a certain point when you are so good, you can only make marginal gains on technique, and those typically come from your technique degradation over the course of a race. So as you get to the very back end of the race when you're fatigued, how good is your technique then? Because that's when you're going to make the biggest losses or gains relative to the rest of the field. But I would say that the general fitness and the new philosophies of training are the big movers. They're the 5 to 10%, and not taking as many rest days is one of those philosophies that's beginning to spread across the biathlon and cross-country universe.
You can hear the clattering of the poles against the concrete. Of course, they won't get as much of the purchase through the poles as they would on snow. There's Quentin Fiolmaye leads this train of 13 athletes in this third heat around the lake, and he will shortly arrive on the purple carpet going in to their first shooting stage. And all eyes on the accuracy of these men leading the way as they come in to shooting one. Fiolmaye leading the way with Vivian Sölum 0.4 of a second behind him. Just Strelo in third, and within a second Fiolmaye.
Quick drills, dropping the poles down onto the left leg. Therefore,
start for Strelo. Miss for Bogholter, miss for Quentin Fiolmaye. Strelo going incredibly well. It's 2 misses for the Frenchman. He'll be twice around the loop at least. Just the Strelo has really impressed, and he'll break away. Dovzan going well. Hornig as well, 5 for 5. Malacek 5 for 5. Sölum twice round the penalty loop as well with Fiolmaye, and that has shaken things up no end.
wow. What a surprise. And this is, again, this is what we love to see, is we've got such unexpected names already at the very front of this field, with some of the bigger names now really under a great deal of pressure to ski fast and to shoot very straight in the stand. Sölum, 2 mistakes, 23 seconds down.
And we are still waiting for Quentin Fiolmaye with his 3 misses to come out of the penalty loop.
Wow.
He does now, and he's 36.8 seconds down. Wow, everything has changed in the blink of an eye, and here are the 5 men who have really been able to capitalise. That's the shooting of just a Strelo. Perfect, but not quite quickest. That was Mihaj Dovzan of Slovenia. Real stable season last time out, finishing with almost identical stats to what he had the season before in terms of his ski speed, his shooting across, of course, standing and prone. And he has made an excellent start. Here are the current lucky losers. And of course, you can see there that does not include Martin Oldal. So all of the lucky losers so far coming from heat number 1.
Yeah, that little bit of a faster first lap has actually had an impact. Not much, but the shooting accuracy, of course, in heat 2, we saw nobody going clear. And that certainly has an impact. Just that 15 seconds on a very short, sharp race like this.
Well, I will be so intrigued to see how, having watched these heats, the women come out and approach their qualification rounds later on today. Brief look over the shoulder from Justus Strelo as they come through into the 2.8 kilometre mark. And it is the German who leads. Just in behind. Hornig as well. 1 second back, Oscar Andersson, the 23-year-old, represented Sweden at 4 Junior World Championships and spends his time competing on the IBU Cup. This impressive first lap and first shooting stage, holding his own against some of the most experienced names in the game.
Accurately, but also fast from Andersson. 16.7 seconds was his shooting time in prone. If that isn't a digital error, that is, of course, but I don't think it is. It was just incredibly fast and incredibly accurate. It's almost as if he didn't need to breathe between each shot to get the targets down.
When you talk about marginal gains in the sport, we've already seen, of course, Martin Oldal failed to qualify for the final, but with the attention that his style of shooting is getting, you wonder whether we will see more of these, maybe the younger athletes as well, come through and try and find those marginal gains in the range. And it is Andersson who comes into shooting 2 in 3rd now, with Jonas Malacek to 4th, and it is Dovzan who has dropped down just in terms of his time in coming through. 3.6 seconds behind the leader, Justus Strelo.
You're going to hear the roar from the crowd, presuming Strelo hits the targets.
Thanks for Andersson. Strelo. You can hear the roar. Hornig going very quickly indeed, and he's very accurate so far, and it's 5 for 5, and Vítězslav Hornig is away. Now goes Justus Strelo. 5 from 5, much to the delight of the German crowd, a miss for Malacek. So I'm trying to fight his way back into it, but he has a miss as well, and that will be him out of this competition. So coming out of shooting 2, we just have 2 athletes for now, and it's Vítězslav Hornig, who had a huge season last season on the World Cup circuit, and we pinned early on in this race as one to watch, who is 2.6 seconds ahead of Justus Strelo, with Dovzan of Slovenia 13 seconds almost down.
Quentin Fillon-Maillet not managing to make a dent on his early error and has paid the price, but great performance there from Strelo. Nice composure, managing to get all of the targets down despite the pressure of 9,500 stadium fans or shooting range fans screaming with every hit, something the Germans are familiar with and train with. But look at the accuracy of Strelo there. Or, I mean, they're hits, but only just for 3 of those shots, right on the edge, a hairbreadth away from being a miss.
But he is one of just 2 athletes with a perfect shooting record. And that's, well, we haven't seen very often, just a handful. There's Lucas Hofer with his 2 misses, of course, coming from the first. And very much better in the standing shoot, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. And he's got the he has the experience to know how to position himself and handle this current situation he's in, because only one of this group is going to go through just by virtue of the heats, but then everyone else is fighting for a lucky loser position, and Hofer, being at the front, is definitely in the optimal position to make a sprint, and there's not much space to get around should somebody try and make a move, as we're seeing.
Well, there was a lot of looking to one side, looking over the shoulders as the course just concertinaed slightly. Gets really narrow as they come round towards the time check, and that is now at the 4.6 kilometre mark. And across the line first is Vítězslav Hornig, who is having a great day on the roller skis. Strelo not too far behind him, just 1.6 seconds down. And well, it is all chopping and changing in this chase pack. They know that there is only one space available, and it is now Jonas Maleček, the 24-year-old, who is pushing the pace and has made his way to the front. There is hardly anything, though, to separate that group, and in that group as well is Biathlon.
Yeah, and Marrakech there, we can see making a move, managing to hold that line where Hoffer's dropped back, just a little bit too fatigued. And
look at this. It's Biathlon coming around the outside. He has had to fight back and dig so deep, but he now takes up the charge in the chase pack. It's all settled at the front. It is done and dusted. But looking backwards, only one of this now duo, almost three, will find their way into the final, and it is the Norwegian who is really pushing things. He is desperate to ensure that it is not the end of the road for him.
Marrakech refusing to give up just yet, and doing well to cling on to the Norwegian.
And across the line they go, and Sørum has just done enough. He had to fight so hard on that final lap, and that is the first time in this competition that we've seen someone drop 3 and still find their way into the automatic qualifying places.
Yeah, fantastic ski speed there, managing to get the fastest time overall, just in terms of ski speed, with 9:49, with Dali Shevdal 9:57, second fastest ski time from the first heat.
But you really have to give the men across the line in first and second their plaudits. Vítězslav Hornig and Justa Strelo with clean shooting, 10 out of 10, perfect, and that really gave them some breathing room just to ease down at the end. While for Biathlon having to go the opposite way 3 times around the penalty loop, and we're looking at around 13 seconds for one of the penalty loop visits. He has had to do so much work on a very short and technical course to ensure that he found his way onto the automatic qualifying places there.
What a fantastic top 3 there. Not one that I would have written down in advance, and again, one of the reasons why biathlon is just so fascinating, to have such an unexpected top 3, and what makes this race so exciting. Fiumaye taking a little bit of time to get off the line there. I think the part of his strategy not to rush it, but really surprisingly 39 seconds back at the finish line. So whatever approach he took into this race, it wasn't as effective as we've seen from him before.
I'm just taking a look at the difference between this heat that we've just seen finish and heat 1, and there may just be a possibility that 4th place in this one could sneak in. We'll wait for confirmation. Of course, 3 lucky losers for the 3 fastest non-qualifiers.
What a nice feeling that must be to look behind you before the finish line, knowing that you have secured your place in the final.
Du wolltest es, du bekommst es. 3 mistakes, but still such a great fight. How do you feel?
So confirmation of the results from heat 3, just one more heat to go. We did say the action would come thick and fast, and we weren't lying here at the Loop 1 Festival. There's a confirmation there, Vítězslav Hornig, Justa Strelo with Biathlon. The top 3 going through automatically. It will be a case of wait and see, but there is a possibility that Vítězslav Hornig could have done enough. Or Jonas Maleček, I should say. Vítězslav Hornig had done more than enough, winning heat number 3. It's his compatriot Jonas Malacek, who is waiting on, and we'll bring you confirmation of who is in those lucky loser positions as soon as we get those confirmed.
Surum skied so fast on his last lap, 3 minutes and 8 seconds for lap 3, whereas Dali Shevdal 3 minutes 17 seconds. And in the second heat, we had Keva of Estonia 3:19. So rapid pace on that last lap, gaining some 10 seconds on the fastest from other heats, just on the last lap alone.
And here we go, the current lucky losers, which do include, and you have to say as well, well deserved for his valiant effort, Jonas Malacek for now is the current fastest of the 3 lucky losers, with Platzer as well, the German, who went a little bit under the radar in that race, but with 2 misses, found himself just 6.1 seconds behind the time of Vitislav Hornig, finishing in 5th. And the only athlete not coming now from heat number 3 into the lucky loser positions is Maxim Germain, who finished 4th in heat number 1. Vladimir Ilyev, looking very poised, this steely look on his face, and behind him, one of the biggest characters in the sport, Campbell Wright. Scott, I looked at this heat and I thought this has to be one of the most fun lineups that you could imagine. Tommaso Giacomelli, Emilian Jacquelin and Campbell Wright. This is really one of the reasons why we love Loop 1. Seeing these 3 in particular, I mean, you can pick out a couple of other names, of course, through this. Disappointing to see Simon Eder not starting, but this could be a real exciting battle.
Unpredictable. Again, you have Emilian Jacquelin, one of biathlon's most loved by athletes, and that's because he is audacious and he brings a lot of drama, a lot of tactics, and he is alongside 2 others who are similarly excellent, with Campbell Wright really coming to shine last year with silver medals at the World Championships. A top character as well as biathlete.
When you look at Emilian Jacquelin, of course, in particular, in this lineup, the 30-year-old, well, he'd not won a sprint race on the World Cup until Kontiolahti at the start of last season. And his 2 wins on the World Cup last season were both in sprints. So maybe someone who's just learning to love the shorter format a little bit more. Isak Frey, great to see him on the start line here. Someone who, in terms of Norwegian up-and-coming talents, has been hotly tipped for quite some time. He wears bib number 50. As I think they're just shuffling everyone round with the absence on the start line of the very, very experienced Simon Eder. Roman Rees spent a lot of last season on the IBU Cup, but bookended his season on the World Cup.
Well, 9,500 of your fans shouting your second name. That must bring with it a little bit of intimidation there.
Podruchny of Ukraine, part of the Ukrainian team, who came 3rd in Nove Mesto in the relay last season. Impressive day, and well, tucked in behind our front 2, Campbell Wright, under 23 Globe winner. In front of him, World Championship silver medalist now, Tommaso Giacomelli, and to the side of him, 2-time world champion Emilian Jacquelin. This is a really stacked heat, full of character, full of talent. And of course, it is the final opportunity for these athletes to confirm their place in today's final later on this afternoon. Ensuring his watch is in the right place. Emilian Jacquelin.
Campbell Wright looking so relaxed, just scanning the crowd.
And he is such a character. And he'll have plenty of fans in the crowd as they are over the start line in the 4th and final heat of qualifying at the Loop 1 festival here in Munich. And it is a quick start indeed for Tommaso Giacomelli, who has left everyone really in his wake. He's made his intentions clear in the first 50 metres of this race.
Yeah, and Emilien Jacquelin having a little stumble as he set off across the line. I think that was just a user error as such, but there are a few other obstacles to contend with. You can see the purple carpet that's been laid out of various parts of the course, and the transition from concrete to that is certainly an experience they need to get used to, practicing over the course of the days leading up to these races.
So it is Tommaso Giacomelli wears 46, Emilien Jacquelin wears 47, Campbell Wright wears 48. As we follow along with the back of this pack, and Phoenix Spark of Australia, the 19-year-old who made his World Championships debut in Lenzerheide, based out of Oslo. Made 3 World Cup starts last season. What a stunning shot that is. Beautiful location. For a thrilling day of racing, which we are flying through. This our final heat. 3 laps of 1.8 kilometres, 2 shooting stages, first in the prone, second in the standing, and just 3 automatic places left up for grabs. And we have seen already so many of the pre-race favourites either drop out of the final, or possibility of reaching the final. And we've had some nervy moments as well for Björn Sørlem in that last heat, really having to fight back.
Something about the drone footage there giving the perspective of calm and relaxation, but as you can see up at the front, Jacquemel is pushing the pace, and we'll get a look in here at how that compares to other heats. And to the second, it's the same as 2, 3 and now 4.
As they come through the 1 kilometre mark, Tommaso Giacomelli leading, Campbell Wright, and Emilien Jacquelin just stumbling on the start line, but is still within a second of Giacomelli, the Italian leader. Frey well up there, holding a good position as some of the boards there just get caught in the poles.
It's interesting that Heat 1 was a full 5 seconds faster, just up to the 1 kilometre mark, than any of these other heats. As we can see, Emilien Jacquelin deciding, you know what, let's have some fun. And this is it. This is why we love watching Emilien Jacquelin, because he brings such a unique approach to every single race.
He really wears his heart on his sleeve. Last season, watching him anchor the French relay team, the passion that he put into those battles, as they're welcomed into the main stand here, into the range. With well, this is the biggest difference that we have seen going into shooting 1 of any of the 4 heats so far, with 4.1 seconds the difference between Jacquelin and Giacomelli. You can see the difference as he gets down into the prone position, just how ahead of the rest of the crowd he is. And he hits the first target, and the second, misses on the third though. Capillari also has a miss, Giacomelli has a miss, Campbell Wright is slow to get started, no one as yet has gone 5 for 5, but now Isak Frey does. Florent Claude in a good position, can he make it 5 for 5? He does, alongside Campbell Wright, and so a messy first visit to the range in Heat 4 of 4 here at the Loop 1 Festival.
Absolutely, and now the penalty loop getting quite congested, but Isak Frey doesn't need to worry about that as he dances over the hill through the post-shoot 1 checkpoint.
Which is 22 years old, Isak Frey, a young Norwegian who has a really impressive trophy cabinet already. 4-time gold medalist at the Junior Worlds, 4-time European champion, including in the pursuit, and this year in the 20-kilometre individual.
Emilien Jacquelin paying a slight price for the increased intensity into the shooting range. When normally biathletes will slow down, he opted to speed up, and that will raise the heart rate, make the rifle less steady, and decrease the amount of control, but only missing 1 target and still managing to come out in pretty much in line with Isak Frey, not too far behind him.
And there is the shooting of Isak Frey, like so many of the target cards that we've seen before. One just slightly close to going out. Very similar situation for Campbell Wright. That was his first shot, and four of the others then as close to centre as you can hope to get.
And the overtaking
side by side.
Yeah.
It's really risky move, that.
So tight, and it's definitely not conducive of overtaking. And just look at the barrier. There's those little legs that stick out, and it's not much, but all it takes is to clip one of those and you can take a really nasty tumble. So each one of these biathletes will be absolutely aware of that danger or that risk, and it's a small one, but it's there, and acting accordingly, not wanting to jostle too much for position in those narrow stretches.
You can see there as well, you can just discern the difference as they go through that section, as they will do again in the next lap. The drop-off as well, there's a slight curb on the left-hand side, so the athletes just needing to be careful of that. It's Isak Frey who leads our group of 4 up to the second time check out on the course, and that is at 2.8 kilometres. So Isak Frey, Campbell Wright, Claude and Emilien Jacquelin. And here now comes the chase pack, led by Podruchny. Podruchny. There is so much experience, and he'll know just to keep his cool now. Still no sign through 2.8 kilometres though of Tommaso Jacquemin. We expect that he will be the next one through, but he was trailing by 36.2 seconds, and that has now dropped to 38.8 seconds. And well, you can see there, Scott, that things have just gone from bad to worse on the second lap for the Italian.
Yeah, he skied fast on lap 1, and he is unfortunately not going to be able to close that gap. We did see Sorum come back from 3 misses and regain the position to one of the top spots, but no, it would take something truly miraculous, I would say, at this point for Jacquemin to make a late comeback.
He needs everyone else ahead of him really to drop shots here, and well, maybe more than one when you look at the time that he is behind, and he needs to shoot perfect as well, which of course is a huge pressure when you've dropped 3 on the first. So into shooting 2 they come. Isak Frey, Campbell Wright, Claude and Emilien Jacquelin, the leading group of 4, but of course only 3 automatic qualifying places. How will things look after our second and final shoot?
Rapid setup there from Isak Frey, and he gets his first shot away quickly and accurately. The first 2 go down. There's a miss for the third, but alongside him are a lot of misses. Jacquelin missing 3, only 1 from Isak Frey. Claude, he needs to get this next target. He does. That's 4 out of 5. And now the question falls to whether anyone in the latter stages can come back and get 5 for 5.
Well, it is wide open now, because dropping shots as well was Campbell Wright. Will come in perfect. Isak Frey out, and he has a significant margin as we wait to see the distance between him and Florent Claude is 7.8 seconds. Well, quickly round the loop was Campbell Wright though, and he hasn't been made to pay too much for just the 2 shots that he's missed. Podruchny has kept his cool and has jumped up to 4th.
And Jacquemin doing very well, getting 5 for 5, making me eat my words, and managing to get just 24 seconds behind. But it's a lot of work to do with a lot of hungry biathletes all searching for that lucky loser spot.
Well, it's interesting to see the spread of shots there from Isak Frey, Scott.
Yeah, miss low right, and 9 out of 10, nothing to scoff at. Florent Claude, another miss. It was low on the side of the right hand. Missing right, as it happens.
Well, this is a good lap so far for Patrick Jakob of Austria, who has jumped up the order and really isn't too far behind Campbell Wright now. It'd be interesting to see when they come through 4.6 kilometres just what the difference is, but looking there, he'd really sprung out of that second shoot and was moving along with a huge amount of pace. This is Isak Frey, the leader, who's making his way around the bottom of the lake. A look over the shoulder And well, there will be a look that gives him a lot of confidence, because he's opened up a big gap on Florent Claude, who will want to ensure that it is a great day for Belgium today. They already have one athlete through to the final. Can they make it too? Here's Campbell Wright, who's fighting behind to ensure that he's not caught by a group of, as you put it, Scott, very hungry biathletes who know that this is their last opportunity.
Yeah, and if you compare it, just leaving shooting number 2 to the other heats, in heat number 1, that was 8:21 seconds to get to the end of shoot 2. For heat 3, it was 8:25. Heat 2 was much slower, sorry. And now for these guys, they're about 6 seconds behind that average, so have to do something special to get a lucky loser spot now.
Well, here is Tommaso Giacomel, who has done so much hard work, but with 400 meters to go, just over, will it be enough?
You can really see Florent Claude there fighting, struggling. It's not easy without any recovery on this course to maintain this level of intensity, frequency. And you can see the chase is really coming in very hot, and Giacomel managing to get from 24 seconds back to 19 seconds back.
But job done, and job done very well from Isaac Frey, who looked very, very comfortable and cruises through to the final, holding his own against some athletes who have a lot more experience on the top level of biathlon racing. Of course, he comes with excellent pedigree. Oh, Claude in behind Campbell Wright, and Giacomel, well, as much as he pushed and pushed, unable with the distance that he had left. It was just not enough to make up the lost ground.
A little sprint finish from Ribley there on his own accord without any competitors, but that was a really intense comeback there from Giacomel, getting all of the targets down in the stand shooting. Finishing just 8 seconds back off the lead. I used the word miraculous earlier, and I somewhat regret that, because he managed to do something quite spectacular on the last lap.
And just rolling his way around the purple carpet is Emilien Jacquelin. Crosses the line with Iliev to one side. Not to be today.
Jacquelin looking a little bit uncomfortable, is just gesturing there with a back arch, that maybe there's a little bit of discomfort, and it does look, the way he's bending over there, that he might have an uncomfortable lower back. And yes, okay, for sure, there's something wrong with his back. That remains to be seen. So Jacquelin appearing to have some kind of pain or injury.
And a slight wince, wasn't there, as he held his back, and there's a look back at the stumble, and you wonder if it just jolted anything there, Scott.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, yeah, it's hard to know. I am familiar with the back pain that after, if you enter a race having not done much by the way of intervals, you can get very sore lower back, and that is as a consequence of the rifle being heavy. But I suspect he has done a lot of intervals, and that would not be the pain that he's experiencing now.
Well, great to see that expression from Florent Claude. The joy on his face, and he does cross the line in second, meaning that Belgium will have 2 athletes in the final. But it was all about Isaac Frey in heat number 4, stamping his place in the final in impressive fashion, and that heat being one of the slower heats overall, meaning that we won't have any of the fastest losers coming from heat number 4. Now the atmosphere building as well as we approach the start of the women's heats. We'll bring you confirmation of course, who has made the final 15 for the inaugural Loop 1 Festival. After we look at the confirmation of the results, the final results from the men's super sprint qualification heat number 4. Isak Frey with a dominant victory over Florent Claude. Campbell Wright coming through for third, with Tommaso Giacomel just outside of the pace, and it seems that that won't be enough for the Italian to break into the 3 lucky loser positions, with the heat number 4 proving to be, I think, is it just inside one of the slowest heats, not quite as slow as heat 2, but not enough to contend with heat 1 and heat 3 for the fastest moving positions.
How much fun was it to compete here today at this Olympic venue?
Oh, it's really fun. The atmosphere is crazy here, and the shooting range in the whole arena is something different and new, and it's a really nice change.
Did you enjoy it? Because it's like, as you said, it's so much different from the winter competitions.
Yeah, it's a bit more fun and intense competition, but also really tiring. You have to be really focused to even get through the race. So it was, but I'm happy with how it turned out.
You did a great job. Now get some rest.
Thank you.
My legs are very sore now, but
And rest is what the athletes will now have an opportunity to do before their final, which is the first to get underway later on this afternoon. And here is the lineup for that final. The 15 athletes making their way through: Tero Seppala, Eric Perrault, Vyacheslav Hornig, Isak Frey, of course, who we've just heard from, who really seems to be enjoying his time out on the roller skis today. Victor Brandt kicking us off in excellent style, coming from heat number 1. The fight back from Vebjørn Sørlem. Just how much has that cost him in terms of energy? He'll, I'm sure, be straight off to recover ahead of the final later on today. Campbell Wright, Maxime Germain, 2 Americans through to the final, which is, of course, great to see. And so the preparations will now start to begin for the women's competition, with the first of our 4 super sprint qualification heats for the women getting underway at 1 o'clock Central European time. And timings for the finals later on today are 3:39 Central European time for the men's super sprint, followed by the women's at 4:20 in the afternoon. So coming up next, the women's super sprint qualification, 4 heats kicking off at 1 p.m.
die Sonne gesetzt. Ich glaube, wir haben den besten Ernst, oder? Diese Welt ist sehr gut. Und die Stimmung macht Spaß. Und die Sonne, die wärmt, wie soll das Häkchen einmal rausgehen? Alles.
Sagt sie, so weit noch nicht. Wie hat euch bisher gefallen? Das kann man doch nicht raus. Gleich von vorne. Biathlon-Fans, also seid ihr Winter unterwegs? Oder vom Fernseher? Vom Fernseher unterwegs auch. Aber heute seid ihr rausgekommen, das heißt, man sollte öfter so machen. 100%ig, ja. 100%ig. Und 100%ig stimmen wir auch wieder ein bisschen Musik, DJ, Insight. Bring uns noch mehr die Sonne raus.
ja, am besten natürlich in München, das wäre doch wunderbar und deswegen waren wir gestern dort im Stadion, um dort auch Werbung zu machen und natürlich auch um Fußball zu verfolgen.
Kann man das auch mitnehmen? Wir haben ganz schön Stimmung gemacht. Hier nochmal eine Lautstärke, wenn wir für Olympia in München sind.
Durch den Olympiapark geht, dann sieht man, wie viele Leute dann auch vor Ort sind, wie Biathlon auch die Leute begeistert und gerade im Olympiapark, ich glaube, eine bessere Location für Biathlon während der Sommer- bzw. Herbstmonate gibt es einfach nicht.
Wie schwer ist es denn? Du hast es gesehen, wir haben verschiedene Untergründe von Teppichboden zu Plastikmatten zu Betonboden. Wie ist da die Schwierigkeit?
Also ich bin jetzt selber noch nicht auf diesen Teppich gelaufen, aber die Athletinnen und Athleten sind Profis, die haben tagtäglich die Skiroller unter den Füßen und deswegen glaube ich, sie werden das gut meistern, sich gut darauf einstellen und hoffentlich schmutzfrei auch durch die Wettkämpfe kommen und ja, dann der Beste oder die Beste soll dann gewinnen.
Abschließen wir dann auch bei den Olympischen Spielen gegen
Well, hello, welcome back to Munich for the inaugural Loop 1 festival, the biathlon opening festival. For the first time it is being taken away from the snow, and it's the concrete and the roller skis that we are enjoying today. And just behind the start list there, as it peels away, you can see the range positioned spectacularly on the Olympic Lake here in Munich. What a stunning venue. The temperature's starting to rise. It started off quite chilly this morning, but the cloud cover moving our way. And what a venue this is. The perfect way to kick off the 25-26 biathlon season, which of course contains the 25th Winter Olympics. A big season coming up for all these biathletes, and a busy afternoon of action as well. 4 heats. We've already seen the men complete their 4 heats. We have the 15 names for who will be through to the final later on today, and now it is the turn of the women, and plenty of excitement continues to build here at the Olympic Park. Alongside myself is former British biathlete turned coach Scott Dixon. Scott, well, it was intriguing, it was thrilling, we had excitement, we had it all in the men's qualifying heats. What do you expect now the women take to the course here in Munich?
I think we can expect much of the same in terms of the excitement and drama, and it's going to fall to the sharpshooters today as to those who are going to perform best. We saw that penalty loop, although very short, is having massive consequences in terms of the overall results. So shoot fast, shoot accurately, avoid the penalty loop, and also avoid the congestion at certain points throughout the track where the roller ski track gets a bit narrow.
And you can see it there, the penalty loop. It doesn't look too long, does it? We've had it down as it being around 60 metres. I think from the angle we're at, it doesn't look as dramatic, but it has been, and it has had, as Scott rightly says there, really big repercussions in terms of the racing. You cannot really afford to drop too much. Really rarely we've seen athletes. We saw one athlete for Bjorn Serum come back from having missed 3. That was a very one-off situation. Apart from that, we have not seen much at all. So they need to be accurate. They need to ensure that they're hitting the targets and hitting them well. As the women, you can see them preparing to get underway. Mentioned there, Brazilian representation. It's great to see the smaller nations represented across the board. We have Shauna Pendry of Great Britain going in this first heat as well. Just one DNS from heat number 1, and that's Venla Lehtonen of Finland. Finland already with an athlete in the final, and with some of the impressive performances of the Finnish women last season on the World Cup. Scott, you'd imagine this could be a couple of races where we then see another Finnish woman make her way into the final.
Yeah, and why not? They've got some fantastic facilities in Finland and a culture there to support the up-and-coming athletes, and it's great to see, and it's supported by the IBU as well. They want to see as many people from diverse nations having success, because that brings in viewers, that brings in excitement, and also a bit of drama when we see so many people capable of getting on the podium. And that really lends itself to events and races like these, where it is even more unpredictable than a lot of races on the IBU World Cup circuit.
I think unpredictable is definitely the right word for it. That is what we probably say has summarised the morning so far. As we're going to move now, of course, into the afternoon and the second bunch of qualifying heats. Similar setup, exactly the same setup, I should say. In terms of the men, the only difference is we have 12 athletes mostly in each of the heats, just a slightly smaller number in this female field. 4 heats, of course, super sprint format. Qualifying runs consisting of 3 loops of 1.8 kilometres each around the Olympic Lake, of course, on roller skis, something very different. These fans who are travelling out to see the opening festival, the opening of the 25-26 biathlon season, used to seeing it on snow. This time round it is on roller skis, as you can see there, as the athletes come along to receive their timing tags. And it's Shauna Pendry of Great Britain who's brought forward 7 World Cup starts after making her debut in Annecy-le-Grand-Bonnard last season. And the sun is shining, Scott. I know Lou Jean-Minot, who goes in this first heat, did mention in one of her interviews before this race that she wanted to be out there enjoying it in the sun, she said. And well, at the time when I read that and heard that, I did think maybe that's a bit ambitious, but the sun has come out.
Absolutely, and isn't it a little bit refreshing that before the season we can enjoy some October races without being drenched? And I think the crowd will be glad of that as well. But the stadium packed with people who from all over who are here to watch these very exciting races. The 9,500 strong, having to build additional stands, additional places for people to come and stand because of the popularity of this event.
So here is the grid formation as the athletes prepare to get started in Heat 1. And this is a heat that's stacked full of talent, like they all are. And Anna-Maria Lampic, well, what an end to last season. She had really big breakthroughs in terms of her results. Ended up on the podium twice in the sprint, finishing 3rd in Annecy in December, and then a huge breakthrough, 3rd in the mass start and home smaller on Pokluka. Elite of Belgium. We already have 2 Belgian athletes through to the men's final. Their accuracy that we saw develop through the end of last season could really stand them in good stead. Carolina Knotten of Norway, a 30-year-old, 2nd in the City Biathlon this season in Dresden. And all eyes on Lou Jean-Minot, 4-time relay world champion. 2nd overall last season. It all came down to a dramatic final day where she fell on one of the final turns. It really was one of the battles for the ages between her and Franziska Preuss, who's unfortunately had to withdraw from proceedings this weekend owing to an injury that she sustained to her hand just a few weeks ago. Mr. Halver making it the front line. As we look all the way back through this pack, we maybe have a slight advantage having watched the men perform already this morning. Take some little bits of advice.
Yeah, there's certainly some parts of this course that are going to be, or that have proved to be challenging in terms of overtaking. It's narrow, and therefore when the biathletes are planning where to make a move, if they're in that position, they need to be very careful about choosing those moments so that they actually have enough width of track to make it happen.
One of the other names to mention, Janina Heditz-Volz, back on the start line. Great to see her back in action after the birth of her child. She wears bib number 10, 1 and 2. Jean-Minot, Lisa Halser, poised and ready to go. As we're underway in the first of our women's heats in the Loop 1 Festival here in Munich. And just how will this one pan out? It has been so intriguing thus far this morning. 4 men's heats have already gone before. The first 3 over the line will automatically qualify for the final, and then the 3 lucky losers, the 3 fastest times following on from those who have automatically qualified. So it does pay, as we saw in heats 1 and heats 3 of the men's qualifying, to go out fast and try and push the pace. But of course, Scott, you have to balance that with the performance in the range, which will be crucial.
That's right, and for every extra bit of effort that you put into the roller skiing before the range comes with the cost of less stability, less oxygen in your lungs and circulated around your body for the shooting. And shooting is hard enough as it is without that additional pressure. So looking at the strategy going on here, it's a little bit slow, but that's just easing into this corner, which is tight, and it gets narrow after. So it's almost like they, as a collective, decided to be a little bit conservative there.
So 12 athletes in this first of 4 heats. Knotten of Norway, the athlete in 3rd, much documented her summer training after being ousted from the Norwegian squad in spring. Do a lot of work on her own, but as you can see from the result in the City Biathlon in Dresden, to have been paying off. She'll have her eyes on a big performance today. 14th in the total score last season, with the sprint podium in Hochfilzen. Spread out, one train of athletes making their way round at quite the reserved pace here, Scott.
It is, and that is, I think, it's a risk because only 3 are guaranteed to go through, and if you go this slowly or this relaxed, as it appears so far to be, then the results are going to be that very low likelihood of a lucky loser. And there's actually a little bit of someone getting cast out. I think it was Knotten getting a little bit pushed out on the corner there. Really speaking to how narrow it is. And is that a broken pole at the front being signalled?
Well, we will take a look as they come through the 1 kilometre mark. There did appear to be a lot of going wide around what seemed to have maybe been an obstacle, or maybe just the grouping of the athletes as they came around the corner. It's Lou Jean-Monod who leads from Knotten, with Lotte Lee in 3rd, Anna-Maria Lampic, who we know, of course, is incredibly quick. She wears bib number 5, and just behind her, Hedvig Volz, the German athlete. Great to see her back competing, of course, here on home soil.
We'll take a look at this again. Somebody went down. And that is particularly bad when it comes to being on tarmac and taking the brunt of a fall with your skin to concrete.
It was Lisa Halser of Austria who we saw just a glimmer of going down to the ground. She finds herself 5.3 seconds now off the pace of Lou Jean-Monod. Of course, we've seen how things can chop and change, and well, in these quick courses, I've seen times a lot more than 6 seconds disappear over the course of the race. She'll try and recover herself as she comes into the first of 2 shooting stages, and of course they drop down into the prone position to start things off. Gandler first to hit, Lonemo, 2 from 2 for Anna Gandler, that's 3, miss for Jean-Monod. Gandler goes 5 for 5 and is away. Knotten as well, perfect shooting. They avoid the penalty loop whilst everyone else has to make a visit. Lotte Lee goes 5 for 5 as well, and it'll be clear and away. Good accuracy towards the end of last season for the, particularly on the women's side of competition for the Belgians. Stand out for them, and it has served them well as they come out of shooting one. And it's Anna Gandler who leads Caroline Notten and Lotte Lee with Lou Jean-Monod 13.9 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, great shooting there from Anna Gandler, managing to get all of the targets down. And we did see Jean-Monod make a little bit of a stretch towards the first shooting, trying to put pressure on the field. Didn't pay off for her as much as she would have liked with that miss, but she's still very much in contact with the lead. 13 seconds down.
And having to climb her way back through the field is, I think, wearing number 2, Lisa Hauser. And here is the shooting of Notten. 1 of 3. Perfect, and you can see, well, just how far ahead that puts you if you can shoot clean.
Hauser having done very well to come back. She's 27, or excuse me, she's 31 seconds behind after the first shoot. That's despite a fall and missing 2 targets.
And support starting to build around the course now. Lap 2 of 3. Great 1.8 kilometre laps, and there is the shooting of Notten. And just look at how accurate that is. Can't really wish for more.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect shooting. It's consistent, and it's not really, it's not gathering to one side or another, so no need to make any adjustments. Not that many people would, even if it was, well, it's a sprint, so there's only stand remaining, so adjusting isn't as important when you're coming in to shoot stand. This technique really is just phenomenal. The way she brings her ski directly beneath her center of gravity and then fully commits before standing up over the ski. Lou Jean-Monod,
who is dragging the chasing pack along behind her. She has 3 athletes trailing her as she looks to bridge the gap to Lotte Lee, and these athletes behind her all shooting 4 out of 5 with Hedvig Volts, Leinamo, Nordqvist, the 3 trailing Lou Jean-Monod. As it's Anna Gandler who is pushing the pace at the front. Missed the end of last season, competing for the first time on the international stage since February, Anna Gandler, and she will be the first to break the line at the 2.8 kilometre mark.
Knotten just deciding that she wants to pick up the pace a little bit, moving to the side of Anna Gandler. This being one of the wider parts of the track, and therefore a spot to look out for in the future for where people might want to make a move, get past, if the opportunity arises.
And there comes the move around the outside of Lotte Lee from Lou Jean-Monod as things start to bunch up, and they need to be ever so careful as they make their way round as the course starts to get just a touch narrower a little bit further on. So they've picked a good time there for Lou Jean-Monod to make that attack. We saw it in the men's races earlier on today, just how clever you need to be when you make those moves, and you can see now the gap is getting smaller and smaller. The time advantage from our leading pair is being cut, but they will shortly be onto the purple carpet and be making their way through the range and into the standing shoot, the final shoot. Just 2 shooting stages, but we've seen so many times today already here at the Loop 1 Festival just how things can chop and change, and it can throw so much up into the air.
Yeah, and Lou Jean-Monod is definitely taking a very fast pace on this second lap, but the leaders of Gandler and Notten not really needing to apply too much pressure. They've got a second shoot to contend with, and they want to arrive here with a decent amount of rest in their body, or at least not too much pressure, so they can focus and get these targets down. Every shot now is absolutely crucial. A good hit from Notten. She manages to get the first down, misses the second. Gandler managing to get 4 out of 4. Can she get 5? She does. 5 for 5 for Gandler of Austria. She gets out. Lotte Lee also going 5 for 5. And then it looks like Nordqvist could be the next to get the full 5 shots. She does. Great shooting from the Swede as well.
So once again, Lou Jean-Monod will be forced to chase. She's once around the penalty loop, and you can see they're already making their way out. So where will she fall? Anna Gandler first to break the line as they come out of shooting two. Impeccable shooting from both her and Lotte Lee. Then it's Knotten and Jean Monod not too far behind. Only the top three going through automatically.
Oh, I would not like to be Knotten right now, being chased by Jean Monod. That is going to be a fiercely fought fight. And I think we can expect Knotten to be under a lot of pressure, but it's going to come down to tactics, because being in the lead around a very flat track like this means you're taking that headwind. So let's take a look at how Knotten and Jean Monod play this final lap.
Excellent shooting from Anna Gandler. Very close to one miss with a second. Lotte Lee coming through. Perfect 10 out of 10.
So interesting to see the different ways of setting up the rifle. We've seen the contrast where Uldal manages to change the magazines with his other hand. It's a completely novel way of doing it, rather than the conventional right hand doing the magazines. Every single second being so important to get to that first shot.
Well, the chase is on as they make their way around the Olympic Lake for one final time in the first of our qualifiers for the women's final. Just the top three going through automatically. It's, well, it was 4.5 seconds even between the leader Anna Gandler and Lotte Lee when they came out of shooting, and that, well, has been cut significantly, as you can see here. Lotte making her way around the outside of Lotte Lee, and things starting to get a little bit tetchy behind. Jean Monod is there. Where, though, is the right opportunity to try and launch an attack, because they are very few and far between on this course. You have to play your cards right, because you won't get too many opportunities to overtake.
Jean Monod is just skiing so quickly. She has managed to close a big gap down on Lotte Lee, and I'd be very impressed if Lotte Lee manages to fend off the incredible Jean Monod.
So here we go as they come towards 4.6 kilometers, just over 800 meters, around 800 meters left to go. Knotten is first through, followed by Gandler. Jean Monod is there. Lotte Lee starting to fade, and this one of the real challenges. You have to get the balance right. You cannot just hope that clean shooting will be enough, and really this is the first time that we're seeing it after it being so heavily relied upon, the clean shooting and the accuracy for the men. As they make their way around the outside of the lake, they will start to see the Olympic Stadium come into their vision, and that's where the finish line will be. Lotte Lee really needs to rally here and keep pushing. Of course, there are 3 lucky loser positions for the fastest non-automatic qualifiers, but you need to work hard to be in with a chance of reaching them.
Jean Monod just sailing forward with apparent ease, managing to claw back all of that time between her and Knotten. And the duo actually doing a great job to get up front. But the question for me is, do they need to continue accelerating to this degree? Is it worth now just taking the foot off the accelerator somewhat and starting to think about the final, which they are certainly going to make?
Yep, it does feel like that is the case. You can see Jean Monod opting not to push around the outside of Knotten to the side of her. She will, however, just take top spot in this heat. Knotten knew she'd done enough, and Anna Gandler with clean shooting holds on to third. Lotte Lee being pushed out by the charging Jean Monod with a stunning final lap. She, alongside Knotten and Gandler, automatically books her place. It's a good returning performance from Hedvig Walsh. Great to see her back on an IBU race. A strong performance, a controlled victory, and a victory despite missing 2. Well, feats around her have gone clean, and that's maybe a difference that we'll see more in this women's race, Scott, that there will be some athletes who will feel that they can drop some and still rely on the skis.
Yeah, the exceptional skiers can, and perhaps not always to take the top spot. I think there's a case to be made that Jean Monod really is an outlier in her ability to ski quickly, and she shoots very fast as well. Her total shooting time today, 51 seconds, and that was 5 seconds behind Notton's total time.
Oh, she was desperately trying to push Lottoli. Just didn't quite have it on the skis today. Someone who did in its abundance was Lou Jean-Minot. Victory in Heat 1. Books the place automatically, and as we said earlier on today, this is exactly the position you want to be in the early heat, get the job done, and off to recover.
Yeah, and Lottoli with a time now in the 4th spot, hoping that she can cling on to lucky loser position. It's all to play for her, but it did appear to me to be a slower first lap. And unless every other heat does that, I would be very nervous if I was Lottoli. Shauna Pendry now coming across the finish line for Great Britain. 3 mistakes in the shooting.
Always a big smile on her face though, made her World Championships debut last season. World Cup debut as well, and then became a familiar face on the circuit. Here is a look back at the race, which was won by Lou Jean-Minot in a time of 13 minutes, 51 seconds, 0.9. Keep that time in your head. Of course, we'll remind you of it as we move through the next 3 heats. All important in terms of the lucky loser position. 13:55 is around the time mark that will be targeted by those who don't finish in the top 3 in the next 3 heats.
Lou Jean-Minot's technique, I love those slow motion shots. She gets her skis so far underneath her body, or so far is maybe an exaggeration because she doesn't go beyond her center of gravity, but that means she's able to point her ski forward, and every single degree out to the side that the ski is facing is a degree less forward progression. And she is the master of really planting it as straight as possible and then curving the ski. As you can see now, it curves after planting to allow you to create that sideways kick. The French, I'd say, really have mastered technique over the last decade.
So Lou Jean-Minot, Paulina Norton and Anna Gandler, the 3 who qualify automatically through to the final. You'll have to wait and see in terms of Lottoli, but she wasn't too far, of course, behind the time of Anna Gandler. Just a second, just over in it. As we see the lineup for heat number 2, Julia Simon, ranked number 3 in the World Cup rankings, will be the athlete to watch in this one. Malenka Gaida, Lena Todorova of Bulgaria as well, of course, had such a standout year in the World Cup last year. Greta Gasparin of Switzerland, of course, they home World Championships. Swiss team maybe would have wanted more, but they came away with some very good results. This is Michela Carrara of Italy. 5th in the sprint in Lenzerheide at the World Championships. Bornikova, Championship silver medalist in the relay. Elena Todorova, well, 2 World Cup podiums, both coming last season. The 27-year-old really had a huge season. Julia Simon, a big smile on her face, 10-time world champion. And alongside her, Malenka Gaida, bronze in the mass start in Lenzerheide, a maiden world championship podium. Who's your one to watch in this heat, Scott?
Julia Simon, and I think it's almost easy to pick the person starting at the very front and the top, but they're there for a reason. She's very, very good at just pushing through the, I would say the flatter can sometimes be harder, and pushing through those harder segments, Julia Simon is absolute master of skate 2, the technique for those flatter, harder segments.
So the countdown is on, the athletes are poised and ready to go. Heat number 2 is underway here at the Loop 1 Festival. And it's a quick start from Simon, and battling to get into a good position as well was Malenka Kaida, who wanted to match Julia Simon for speed, and she has done it. As those two have made the best of the starts.
I'm excited to see how Lisa Vitozzi fares. She's starting back a little bit from the lead and has to contend with the traffic. But already you can see that this is a lot faster. The pace being led by Julia Simon. She is taking no prisoners.
Well, of course, we didn't see her in the walkthrough of the athletes there, but it is the return of Lisa Vitozzi as well, and she will wear bib number 25. Of course, the World Cup total score winner in the 23-24 season. She was hoping that there would be an opportunity for her to get back onto the snow on the World Cup. Towards the end of last season, she had to keep pushing back and pushing back the time based off the fact that her injury at one point was improving. Then there was a setback, and so she decided to call time on her season to prioritise performing and getting into the right shape to take on this Olympic season. So interesting to see how she fares today. And it is Julia Simon pushing the pace at the front.
Yeah, she's not shy to get up there and really lead with a fast pace. The cost of that, of course, is that she takes the headwind, and that will contribute to her fatigue as the race goes on. But she's going fast. She's running her own race, and that definitely has been thought of ahead of time. And it seems to be the strategy from the French to be quite aggressive, and that has appeared or manifested across all the different heats.
She has a good record in mass starts competitions, 4 mass start World Cup wins, however none since the 23-24 season. Did win her 4th individual title in a World Championships at Lenzerheide. That was in the individual. Slow start to the season, then it really burst into life, and she was such a great entertainer at the World Championships in February as they come through the line. And it is Julia Simon who leads us through 1 kilometre. First with Kakaida tucked in behind Todorova. Keep your eyes on Herfem Steinovik as well of Norway. Totsi going to just work her way forward, and you imagine she'll do so gradually.
Yeah, I think Bornikova is definitely one to look out for me, who could potentially perform very well here.
Yeah, she finished last season so strongly. Those are Bornikova, athlete from Czechia. 7th in the pursuit in Oslo.
Totsi managing to make her way up through the field. She's managed to get... it's not too easy, as we've already pointed out. There's a lot of traffic. So to even gain back just a couple spots at this early stage is no easy task. But I think if I was to go into the mindset of a biathlete starting further behind, there isn't that much of an imperative to get forward. It's actually advantageous to stay settled, to stay relaxed, because there isn't a huge time gap between the leader and the one at the back. So you're not gaining such a huge amount by forcing yourself through those tight spots.
We'll see what the time difference is when they come into shooting 1, as they now do. Vitozzi is just 2.8 seconds behind the lead of Julia Simon. He was just picking the pace up slightly as they made their way around the first 1.8 kilometre loop.
8 seconds faster than Heat 1 to get to the shooting range.
And that could make all the difference. Simon first to shoot. Vitozzi follows quickly. Gasparin as well. It's 2 from 2 now, 3 from 3 for Vitozzi, who is flying and going so well. And it's 5 for 5 for Lisa Vitozzi on her return. Julia Simon will be once around the penalty loop. Kakaida will go twice. But the patience of Lisa Vitozzi paying off. She will surely be the first to come out of shooting 1.
Repinch of Slovenia managing to go 5 out of 5 as well as Slettemark of Greenland. Slow shooting but accurate and well better rested. But Vitozzi dancing up the hill there. Cannot be said for the athlete who's losing their pole, getting in a bit of a tangle there. Was that Simon?
I believe it may have been. I wonder if we'll get a shot of it again. Julia Simon is 12.3 seconds behind the pace of Lisa Vitozzi. Well, she was right in the middle of the pack. She was seeded towards the back, of course, owing to the fact that she didn't compete on the World Cup last season. And what a return it is. This is the shooting of Julia Simon.
The rifle perfectly vertical, steady, as she breathes in, and then as she exhales, the front of the rifle rises up onto the target. The target entry always coming from beneath and then coming up onto the target for prone shooting.
And look at the shooting of Lisa Vitozzi, who has opened herself up to quite an impressive lead in the early stages. And this is exactly the start that she would have wanted to make on her return. Leaving shooting 8.3 seconds ahead of Lena Lepinch. And you wouldn't be surprised if you see that gap open slightly. You know how formidable Lisa Vitozzi can be on the skis, and she's flying along as the crowd builds to the right-hand side of her.
What a beautiful setting to be racing in around this park, with the lovely still reflection on the lake, and the fans showing out in their thousands here to come and watch the spectacle.
And of course, as a lot of the athletes have attested to, Lou Jean Monod saying before, of course, her first heat, that it is so nice to come here and not have the pressure really weighted, mounted on your shoulders. And no one maybe might feel that more than Lisa Vitozzi. Of course, there would have been pressure last season should she have raced to try and defend a title. She didn't have the opportunity to do so. Here is Lena Lepinch, who is moving along well. There's a look at her target. She's driving to try and close the gap to Lisa Vitozzi, which stood at 8.3 seconds. We won't be too far away from finding out just what the gap is at the 2.8 kilometre mark. And here it is, the time check indeed, as she makes her way over the bridge and will break the line first. And you can see, well, it seems to me, naked eye, that that gap may have just opened slightly, but she is fighting hard, the Slovenian.
And Slovenia, of course, with FAC having such success, and Lampic having such success on home soil last year, or home snow, that there's going to be certainly a lot of motivation in that team going forward to the Olympics.
Oh, absolutely. There's just 0.1 of a second cut into the lead of Lisa Vitozzi by Lena Lepinch, as Julia Simon losing time, actually a second, almost a second, after coming out of shooting one at the 2.8 kilometre mark.
So Kirkeide of Norway is down 20 seconds almost on the leader Vitozzi, and that equates to one miss, 15 seconds if we're counting 15 seconds for a penalty loop, and then it could also be clawed back by shooting very quickly relative to the leader. But that's a lot of things that need to work in Kirkeide's place for her to climb from 7th right up to the top spot.
Well, we've seen a lot of biathlon in very quick succession already today, and this, I believe, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time that we have seen an athlete really come in all by themselves into the range. I can't remember across any of the men's heats that we had a leader who was this far ahead. We haven't seen Lena Lepinch now come into the range, as she does just make her way around the corner, and already Lisa Vitozzi will be set and ready to go.
And that dynamic means that it's now Vitozzi's race to lose, adding a different pressure, but she manages it well for the first two shots, shooting beautifully well. 3 go down, 4 go down, accurately so, quickly, all 5 targets for Lisa Vitozzi. What a comeback.
That is how you mark your return. 10 out of 10, she's clean and away, and this race is hers. Another miss for Simon, 2 for Lena Lepinch, who will start to fall back. Who can capitalise out of this trailing pack? It looks like it might be Isaac Gasparin who is able to. Her and Todorova go 5 for 5, and there are plenty of missed hits, so many reds there, as Vabornikova going 5 for 5 as well. But this is Lisa Vitozzi's race. She is so far ahead. Let's keep our eyes on the time. Over 20 seconds, almost 25 seconds it will be as Aita Gasparin comes over the top of the hill there, and it's 24.3 seconds, the advantage that Lisa Vitozzi has. Well, talk about laying down a marker, talk about coming back and performing to your very best, because that is exactly what Lisa Vitozzi is doing today.
Absolutely, and it's almost as if she was on a training race. She didn't appear to be feeling any nerves whatsoever. She came into that final stand, and it's as if she was just in her own bubble, focusing just on her process, and the targets went down with ease. The end of the rifle is completely steady, trigger pressure perfect, and a cool, calm, and collected look at the 5 targets that went down in quick succession.
Well, you don't see the grin maybe so much on her face, but you can feel it. You can really feel the relief. You can feel that she knows just how well she's done there. And now it will be a very lonely but a very well-deserved final lap around the stunning Olympic Park as we take a quick look, Scott, at where her shots landed.
Well, she only required 1/4 of the target to get them all down. Good grouping, but all of them in the top right. So if the target was just the top right quarter, then from 12 till 3 o'clock, then she still would have got 4 out of 5.
Here's a look at the targets of Aita Gasparin. Just took a historic sprint relay gold medal in Pokluka, across the board improvement last season. Todorova, we've already spoken about the way that she really burst back onto the scene, back into people's minds in towards the end in particular of last season, but that 3rd place finish in the sprint in Oberhof gave her so much confidence before she improved her personal best in the mass start in Pokluka. Another who competed at the City Biathlon this year, just not too long ago in Dresden, and performed very well.
A tactical race now. We have Gasparin and Todorova, who are in a pretty comfortable position, not being particularly threatened, but Vorbornikova seems to have fallen back slightly.
And it is for Gasparin and Todorova, the two who are currently, and as they make their way through the 4.6 kilometre mark with around 800 metres left to go, will have a decent advantage. Now, who is chasing here? It is Vornikova, and you can see the pace, no doubt, will have dropped. Let's take a look at the time. Yep, just dropping off, unable to match the pace of Todorova and Gasparin, who have been pushing on together. Now, where is Julia Simon? Because she seems to be well out of the picture, as we just on our screen that we can see the times of Fensteinovic and Kirkaida pop up. Julia Simon is down in 7th, 45 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, and Kirkaida missing 5 and still managing to be 0.4 seconds ahead of Simon. So it's clear that Julia Simon either has given up the fight, knowing full well that she's not going to get a lucky loser, and therefore not treating this as any more of a training session beyond what she's already done. But great skiing from Kirkaida to be able to be only 45 seconds back despite 5 misses.
Yeah, when you look at the stats around, it really is impressive. But what is impressive today? What a return, Lisa Vitozzi. That is a statement. That is how you do it. Here is the battle for 2nd and 3rd, although not much of a battle, as they both now will qualify through to the final, along with Lisa Vitozzi, who has marked her return so impressively. Across the line comes Todorova, and Aita Gasparin, of course, competing without her sister for the first time in this upcoming season, and despite performing well in the range, not to beat today for Teresa Vorbornikova. And there you see Kirkaida and Fensteinovic across the line.
Fast skiing from the Norwegians, very inaccurate shooting, but to be able to cover the ground as quickly as they just did, that certainly has good connotations for their form leading into this upcoming winter season. But we've seen from both of those athletes exceptional form on the skis, with a slightly less predictability when it comes to the shooting range, whereas Vitozzi really is the full, all-round, reliable I'd say full picture biathlete as she has been in the past, but looking good going forward to a home Olympic Games.
Well, it's so important, of course, to mention those home Olympic Games, isn't it? Because they would have been such a big motivator through the challenging months of not being able to compete with your team, not being able to train with your team, doing so much work alone while recovering from injury. The huge motivator of the Olympic Games, no doubt, will have kept everything going, kept her rolling along, given some real positives to look forward to. And Lisa Vitozzi, dominant performance, 18.1 seconds her advantage in the end as the last few athletes make their way across the finish line in this second of 4 heats. And well, let's just take a look at the time difference between the two. It was, of course, the fastest time of the day for Lisa Vitozzi. Clean shooting, impressive on the skis. And well, it'll take a little bit of maths to figure out where it might lie with the lucky losers. I think it will be just out of reach for Bornikova.
Yeah, she's Vapornikova some 15 seconds behind Lotte Lee's time. No, I take that back, 7 seconds. So she's actually inside Heidi Schwartz's time. So it does look like so far, and I wouldn't be too optimistic that this will remain the case, but she is, looks like second lucky loser as of yet behind Lotte Lee, as per my maths, but remains to be checked with the official graphics.
And of course, when we get those official results, when this heat concludes, we will bring you the update on that.
And it looked so easy there for Vitozzi, just managing to cruise around the track. And every step along the way appeared to be very relaxed. The shooting was relaxed. And she didn't start in an optimal position, being a little further back, but I think she might have gained something from the drafting effect, being in the middle of the group as opposed to being up at the front.
And here is confirmation of those results with the conclusion of heat number 2. Lisa Vitozzi is back. And that is the big headline from heat number 2. That including as well, you have to, when you look further down, say Julia Simon, unable to qualify for the final. As we move quickly on to heat number 3, Oceane Michelon, we know her prowess and well, what she can do on roller skis. It was one of the big indicators that she would go on to have such an impressive season as she did last time round, with some of her early season and summer indicators on roller skis. So Grothian also going in this one, and a big smile from Ingrid Landmark-Tandevold. She'll be hoping to find that extra touch of consistency this season. Such a challenging season last time round, personally, having to battle with health issues, but back, and she'll be hoping better than ever. Tiska alongside her as we make our way forward. Anna Magnusson, that's one World Cup win to her name. She wears bib number 34. Amy Berserger, 25-year-old, made her way onto a World Cup podium for the very first time in Ruhpolding last season in the individual competition. Now Oceane Michelon, the under-23 Globe winner, in a really tight battle. And alongside her, Selena Grothian, one World Cup win to her name. And you can hear the round of applause as she's introduced to the crowd here in Munich. Only 21 years old, Selena Grothian. One to watch in this season's under-23 competition. Third last season, with, of course, the woman to one side of her taking the Globe title in the youth discipline.
Definitely one of the aspects of biathlon that makes it so exciting is the age disparities. They still have success young or as they become more seasoned biathletes.
So the crowd count us down. We fly through the heats here at the Loop 1 Festival. And Heat 3 is underway. Michelon wearing bib 31, Selina Glotian bib 32, and it is the German who on home soil has pushed her way to the front.
Yeah, a nice aggressive start there, definitely leading with intent, and she'll be supported around the track with the cheers of her supporters who are there in their thousands. And it can't be understated how much effect that actually has on you when you have so many supporters screaming your name, the intensity, the loudness, and it really does have an incredible effect on your physiology.
Already seen plenty of flags as well for Ingrid Landmark-Thundervold, an athlete who seems to collect fans from every nation wherever she goes. Of course, publishes so much of her life through her blogs on social media and on YouTube, and well, we see plenty of fans supporting her from various nations. Here are the lucky losers so far. The time to achieve is 14 minutes 3 seconds 0.5. Hetix Volz, Babornikova and Lotte Lee, the three who currently occupy those places. So keep a note, 14 minutes and 3 seconds is what the lucky losers will be requiring.
And as you're saying there about the international fan base for some of these biathletes, particularly tangible, I would say that it's that's fairly applicable across the board. Biathlon seems to bring in fans who just love the sport. I can speak to Norwegians who love it when other nations get on the podium. And it's not just testament to how great a sport this is and how real the sentiment of the biathlon family, which is something of an actualized slogan that the biathlon, the IBU, like really attribute to their philosophy. I would say that it's fantastic that so many supporters really just want success from a diverse number of nations.
Well, it keeps it fresh and it keeps it exciting, and when you look in particular at those who have already qualified for today's finals, the diversity of the nations represented is already clear to see, and it'll be exciting to see who can add to that on the women's side as we're into now our penultimate heat, and this is the 1 kilometre mark, and there's not much at all separating the athletes as they come through. The top 11 separated by 5 seconds just outside. With Selina Glotian leading the way from Ocean Michelon. Aya Beserga up there, just 1 second behind is Ingrid Landmark-Thundervold.
Interestingly, a little bit slower, 3 seconds slower than the second heat. And much faster than the first heat by just over 11 seconds faster than heat 1. So that is, it wasn't just a false sense there or perception. We were right to say that the first heat was incredibly relaxed on the first lap. But despite that fact, we still have Lotte Lee coming in as the first lucky loser, implying that too much intensity on that first lap does pay a price on the legs as the race goes on. So going a bit slower doesn't necessarily have too much of an impact, at least by that data point.
No, and I do wonder whether the battle in the closing stages of race number 1 also helped the likes of, you know, in particular, of course, we see Lotte Lee there in the current lucky loser position. The fact that there was so much action, so much to race for right until the end, no doubt would have helped her tenfold in the position that she is now in as they come into shooting 1 in heat number 3, the first of 2 shooting stages, and they'll drop down into the prone position. And just losing her glasses as she prepares to raise the rifle to her eye.
You hear the clatter of roller skis on this very specifically made surface as they come to a quick stop.
Vidal of Germany making a quick start. It's a miss for Michelon. Beserga has a miss and 1 hit. Vidal going incredibly well, so is Scotland. of Sweden. She's 5 for 5 and she'll be away quickly. It's a miss for Grottien. Michelon now away, but she'll have to make a visit to the penalty loop. Gislova going well. Magnussen also 5 for 5. And well, as we've seen so many times here at Loop 1, the landscape of this race flipped right on its head.
Yeah, fantastic shooting there, and quick shooting from a large number, with Scott Time, 2 Swedes featuring in that statistic. Magnussen and Scott Time both doing very well. Michelon coming out just a little bit behind, 11.8 seconds back for the French.
Here's a look at the shooting, the target of Scott Time, who is quick as well, as you've already mentioned, Scott, but that has served us so well.
Yeah, being fast is one huge component of biathlon, but it does come with a cost. Some of the fastest skiers that we've ever seen, and just taking a look at Vidal's shooting group there, all very grouped well, but to the low right of the target. But yeah, skiing fast, vital, but being able to maintain good shooting accuracy is even more important. It's much greater cost when the targets don't go down than when they do if you are skiing slowly. So yeah, huge importance.
So 5 athletes, perfect through the first visit to the range. Only Amy Baserga missing more than one. There's our leading trio. Scott, Vidal, Gislova. Their way around the Olympic Park.
And you can hear the different textures of sounds from the audience as so many people coming out and almost having their own preparation for the season, where you can expect all the German stadiums to be completely filled with cowbells and horns and a diverse number of spectators. It's such a popular sport here in Germany.
Well, interesting to see where this front trio now stand, because it is Anna Magnussen who's moved into the top 3, with just a little bit dropping down the order and able to stick with the pace. And you can see it quite well visually represented there, coming out of shooting 1, just 3.3 seconds behind Scott Time, and she's dropped all the way down now. She's lost almost 10 seconds on that second lap.
So interesting as well, actually, that even though she is losing time, they are still significantly ahead at this 2.8 kilometer mark of Heat 1. So you can expect, especially with great shooting in this heat so far, there to be a lot of contenders for those lucky loser spots. So although this 3 up at the front look to be doing very well, and of course biathlon will see the great shuffle come after the stand, we can expect to see some drama from those further back, contending for those lucky loser spots.
Yeah, looking at, of course, the names of Ocean Michelon, Nicolas Martin-de-Velde, they're still within 15 seconds. And we know around maybe the 14, 15 second mark, that's all it is for a penalty loop. So it could all change, as you can hear the dull thuds of the roller skis as they make their way over the purple carpets here into the range for one final time.
So now they'll be trying to regain their breath after that intense loop. Magnussen having the advantage of the slipstream. Drills they have done thousands of times, a process they have done thousands of times, but now the intensity of the moment will be bearing down upon them as the first shot goes by Scott Time, but it's a miss. Vidal manages to get the first 3 targets down accurately and quickly. Magnussen managing to match it, but Vidal misses her final shot. The crowd sigh, and Magnussen also missing her final shot, leaving the door open.
But the door is not being walked through by either Michelon or Tandavold, who both have to go around the penalty loop 3 times.
Wow. And Wagner of Austria managing to get her 5 out of 5. She's going to see the leader dancing up this hill. Vidal there just pulling away. Baserga also going 5 for 5. She was 28 seconds down at the 2.8 kilometer mark. A good comeback from her.
And so Wagner now up into 3rd. Scotland not far behind her. But Anna Vidal leading the way. PA announcer says she's supercharged. She's only missed 1. And she does have an advantage of 6.3 seconds. Now 29 years old. She was 11th on the IBU Cup total score last season. Only making 2 World Cup teams in the 24-25 World Cup season.
And what a shuffle we saw there. That's another great example of that final shot in biathlon being such high pressure. 2 biathletes both having hit the first 4 and failing to get the final target, by which point the routine is in place and statistically you're likely to get it, but you could see the disappointment there from Vidal as the target did not go down. The crowd equally disappointed.
It's still fast enough to open up a significant advantage, even with the penalty loop. And well, there it's just an indication of how accurate her first 4 shots were, and with pace as well. That's the miss of Magnussen. Sits in 2nd and has quickly closed the gap to Anna Vidal.
The targets, of course, being about the size of a small dish, and interesting to see some of the targets when the groups are, as you can see there from Wagner, a very tight group, but only using half of that target, only the right-hand side of it. And that's something you see quite often when the patterns group, either on the top left, top right, and that is as a result of the pulling of the trigger, the pressure on the trigger, and the entry onto the target, something that is generally corrected for in training. When the grouping is off to the side, it has nothing to do with wind in the stand shooting, only the, or mainly the aim of the biathlete.
So now into the lead goes Anna Magnussen as they approach the 4.6 kilometer checkpoint. Glued to her back is Vidal. Scotland's worked her way up past Wagner, who is left trailing, but she cannot take her foot off the pedal here. She needs to keep going.
And it's close. Lotte Lee is the fastest lucky loser, and at this point was 12:35.5. That was at the 4.6. And Wagner is 12:34.3, which is just a second faster than the fastest lucky loser.
Just 1 second in it. She needs to keep pushing. She might feel like, of course, the chances of qualifying automatically have long slipped away from her. And if she can keep pushing here, Nora Wagner, she could find herself into the final in one of the lucky loser spots. It is all tied up ahead of her. And as we've seen with the others, the other heats that have come before, there won't be too much in terms of jostling for the line. Anna Magnussen leads them around the corner into the stadium where they are welcomed. And the roar is for the athlete wearing 39, who will come across the line in 3rd. Anna Vidal, who has booked her place in the final of the Loop 1 Festival. And they're 10.3 seconds behind the winning time is Nora Wagner. Now where will that place her? 13:57.7. How does that compare to Lotte Lee's time?
Gauthier in front of her home crowd missing 2, 35.9 seconds back, and crossing just ahead of Michelon with 4 misses. So she'll be a little disappointed with that. It's a tough one, high stakes, and Tangervold, another, in fact, 3 of my top, certainly top 5, all finishing outside the top 5. So again, another slight unexpected outcome. I'd say very unexpected outcome. Totally different surface to be roller skiing over for many of these biathletes. This purple carpet simulating well the smoothness of concrete, but safe to roller ski on, safe to sprint on, but certainly a different sensation underfoot.
Another roar for Anna Weidel. Her name is read out over the tannoy. A controlled race, just 1 miss for Magnusson. 20th in the women's total score competition last season. As we look back at some of the highlights from the penultimate heat of the women's race, as we come ever closer to completing our 15 athletes who will race later on this afternoon in the final of the women's race here at the Loop 1 Festival.
A great day for Sweden there, 2 in the top 3, 2 in the top 2 I should say. And Skottheim always doing well in these slightly unique races. When she's brought in, she tends to perform, but struggles with a very competitive Swedish team to stay up there on at the top, the sharp end of Swedish competition. But perhaps this is an opening for her as she manages to really cut by. That's a fantastic overtake there. Not an easy place to do it with the gravel on the left-hand side of the asphalt and the metal fencing on the right-hand side, making this narrow spot particularly challenging. But I was fascinated there, Ellen, to see them all fighting so hard to get to the finish line when there was such a gap. They were all guaranteed to get to the final, but yet still really pushing every single meter to get across the line.
Yeah, it was interesting to see, potentially wanting to impact the seeding later on for the final, which will be played out over 5 laps of course, 1.8 kilometres, 4 shooting stages. We start with the prone shooting stages before we move into 2 standings. And of course, as with today, no reloads either. There was confirmation of the results from our 3rd and penultimate heat. And here is your start list for the final heat. And what a display, particularly of young talent we have in this one, with Jean Richard being the athlete who will be on the front row. Alongside her will be Suvi Minkin and Ella Halvorsen, with both, well, you have to say all 3 of those athletes got really having big breakthrough seasons last time out.
Yeah, for sure, and at very different points in their career as well. Some who have, like Minkinen, she's been around for a good amount of time and had many races under her belt.
Quick look there at Natalia Sidorovic, close to a first World Cup podium in the short individual in Kontiolahti, just finishing 4th. Darcy Morton is a little bit further back. They've decided to put the wrong graphic there. Slight confusion between 57 and 51, with Maya Clautens being on the 2nd row. And there is Ella Halvorsen, World Championship silver medalist in the individual at Lenzerheide, 25-6 top 10 finishes last season. Jean Richard, very impressive season for her, the 23-year-old, taking a mass start podium in the World Cup in Ruhpolding, first ever World Cup podium, and a breakthrough season at 30 years old for Suvi Minkkinen, proving that it's not always linear, the road to success.
196 World Cup starts for Minkkinen. It's a huge amount of experience on the World Cup.
Name noted by the PA announcer as well, when bib 56, Elina Malikastel, the 24-year-old IBU Cup athlete representing Germany in this heat. Alongside Darcy Morton, the Australian, the only Australian woman on the World Cup circuit currently. Competed at 8 World Cup events last season.
These are the last 15 seconds.
The heartbeat over the speakers, adding to the intensity and the stress. These athletes know the times to fight for.
And now the weight and the pressure is on their shoulders. This is heat 4 of the women's competition at the Loop 1 Biathlon Opening Festival. Just the top 3 qualifying automatically, but they will be so intent on taking out this final heat hard and fast, although there was an arm raised immediately by Jean Richard, who's not happy about something. Has there been an issue with her poles?
She's taken off her left pole, so it appears that her tip has either snapped off or somebody's rolled over it. So she's going to need a replacement, but there will be support staff ready to facilitate that exchange. It's just too busy at this point to do that exchange, so perhaps there's some parameters set around the start to prevent anyone getting into trouble or a tangle.
Well, she still has one arm raised, and she's dropped back now into 3rd. And where will the support staff be around this course to allow the handover of a new pole? I do believe that there is a coaching sort of segment area just down at the bottom as they come around here. Now, will there be enough opportunity for her to get over?
Yeah,
some of the coaches there.
The amount of disadvantage only having one pole cannot be understated. Every single pole plan is going to be compromised, and much of the forward propulsion comes from the arms.
So it has been confirmed that it is enough for Lara Wagner through into the lucky loser position as things stand. Still, Jean Richard has not got the pole she needs, I believe. It did look like she had one arm raised.
It's a strange, unless it's happened and we haven't seen it, it's there should be a spot where the team are anticipating that kind of outcome, because it is very congested, and the more congested a track is, the more likelihood there is of there being a broken pole. So I suspect she's already received the spare pole, and we just haven't seen it.
No, I do think that is the case. I think it was just maybe her adjusting her hand placement on it as she had her hand raised. But she is, as you can see there now, very much into her skiing. And what we saw with Lisa Vitozzi, as well, there is
Pole.
There is a spare pole. So no, it is right. She did not have her pole, as much as it did look like she was moving comfortably. The changeover hadn't happened, but now it has, and Mark Claughton is leading the way through 1 kilometre.
So it looks like the pole tip, the tiny bit at the end just came out for whatever reason. She was still using the pole, but it would have just been plastic on tarmac. Therefore, certainly less traction, less power going through the pole, but still able to use it to some degree.
So Mark Claughton's lead. Suvi Minkinen is in 2nd. Jean Richard has done so well to keep her composure. The French athlete, still only 23 years old, to really hold her position, make it obviously clear to those around her, and just be patient, waiting for the replacement pole to be handed over to her, which has now happened. All 12 of the athletes are within 3 seconds of each other. Kislova of Bulgaria, the slowest through 1 kilometre, and only 2.7 seconds down.
It's actually one of the reasons I wouldn't be advising an athlete to do a sprint finish. Save your energy. It doesn't really matter if you're at the front, if you're at the back. It doesn't appear to be particularly unsafe. We saw there Richard, she was at the front and she incurred a damaged pole, but I would say save the energy as Vitozzi did and climb up by virtue of good shooting as opposed to just being closer to the front at the start.
So into shooting for the first time in the prone position. Those who qualify for the final will have to take on 4 shooting stages. This super sprint qualifying, of course, there's only 2. Claughton will drop down into the prone position. Miss for Morton of Australia, Zook of Poland. They're going well, Sidolovic flying, but there is a miss now. Minkkinen 4 for 4, that's 5, and Suvi Minkkinen is away. Kastel 5 for 5 as well. And throwing a red, but no, really, more than 2. So better in terms of the overall accuracy, but only 2 athletes shooting clean, and that is Suvi Minkkinen and Selina Mari-Kastel, the 24-year-old German. Sidolovic was the quickest through of those who have missed 1 and is in the automatic qualifying place as things stand. And now here comes the horde over the top of the hill and out of shooting 1 officially.
And among them is Richard, who is just dancing along with a lovely skate 2 there, as is common amongst the French biathletes, utilizing the middle technique between the hill technique and the long flats technique for optimal speed generation.
Well, it was such a joy to watch Suvi Minkkinen last season in what was such an impressive breakthrough. She wears bib 41 today, or 47 even, and here is the confirmation of where those shots landed on the target.
Excellent grouping. Nice composed technique there from Kastel, who is just cruising around, although I would say that corner was taken a little bit close to the edge. I'd have liked to seen a wider entry into it and cutting in finer rather than getting blown out a little bit at the end of the corner.
What are the key differences, Scott, when it comes to cornering, let's say even coming to a halt on roller skis? Because it does look incredibly challenging to make them stop in comparison to skis.
It's such a common question, but the amount of control these biathletes have is amazing. They are able to come to a stop within a matter of seconds by combining very fast step turns with snow plows, with using the ski, dragging the ski if necessary, or simply bailing out into the grass. There's many ways of stopping. The only thing you can't do that you can do on skis is a snowplow and a parallel turn. Excuse me, not a snowplow. You can snowplow on roller skis. Is a parallel turn where you use both skis, turn them in the same direction, and cut your edges into the snow. So lacking that, you have other methods which are not available on snow, such as bailing out into the grass. On snowy tracks, there isn't usually grass to bail out into. It's sometimes just a ditch.
And we don't want to see anyone ending up in any snowy ditches, do we? As Suvi Minkkinen approaches the 2.8 kilometre mark. Now let's keep an eye on her timings here, because this seems to be a significant lead that has opened up, although Kastel now swept into the group. Keep your eyes on the time here, 8.9 seconds, the difference between Suvi Minkkinen and Ella Halvorsen. And when they left shooting, as much as the group has caught up, and Ella Halvorsen in particular has done a huge amount of work to get back within 10 seconds of Suvi Minkkinen, the difference between Minkkinen and the chase pack has opened up hugely.
She is absolutely charging at the front, seems to be composed. The question is she going to be able to handle it on the stand shooting? She has the combination of having skied quickly with the intensity from being watched by all 9,500 people in this stadium, and that has a massive psychological effect on shooting, and that psychological effect can become physical to the extent that sometimes pressure can make you shake. It can introduce thoughts into your mind that can be incredibly debilitating. So let's just take a look at how Minkkinen manages that pressure.
She is off the back of the most incredible season, a first World Cup podium, first World Championships medal, relay gold medal in the single mixed in Oberhof on the World Cup. She has been flying. You can see the gap visually as Suvi Minkkinen position herself in the first position. Those coming in behind, it is Suvi Minkkinen who has the advantage here in the standing and final shoot.
perfect shot right in the middle to get underway for Minkinen. 4 out of 4. She manages to get 5 out of 5. What a fantastic race from Minkinen there. She is going to go clear, and with a mighty gap to mean that she can relax. But Halvorsen, she's coming through with 2 out of 2. She's got 3 out of 3. The next athlete to potentially get 5. She doesn't. The last target does not go down for the Swede.
Well, the advantage here now for Suvi Minkinen will be giant. Keep your eyes on the time as they start to peel out of the penalty loop. It's Klotens who will be first to break away. And you can see they're still going around and round and round on the purple carpet. Darcy Morton, well, an excellent suiting day for the Australian. 9 out of 10. You have to doff your cap to her. She's done an excellent job, and that will push her up the field as well. Let's take a look, though. Lea Meyer through in third with Halvorsen. And then Richard starting to climb her way up, but 5th for now. She really needs to get moving.
Yeah, the average shooting performance here certainly has dropped when you compare that to some of the other heats, particularly heat number 2 with some pretty impressive top-tier shooting up at the top 4, only missing 3 collectively. And Minkinen there, you can see her first shot almost right in the center of the target, with the final shot being top left, almost on the white, but still managing to hit enough of the black to go down.
And there is no one within range. 22 seconds, almost 23 really. Her advantage when they left shooting 2. There is the missed shot, the third shot of Klotens.
And now the dynamic here between this duo is that there is not a huge amount to fight for, but they can certainly fight together to stave off any other competitors who are threatening their top 3 position. They'll be very well aware of their seeding right now and the lack of need to exert too much energy.
And when they look over their shoulder, the 2 that they will see will be Ella Halvorsen and Jan Richard, as well as the very experienced Lena Haki-Gloss, Switzerland, who's missed 3 today, same as Richard. There's a look over the shoulder from Suvi Minkinen.
And the pace up at the front really is quite fast. With Richard, she is the fastest so far, course time 2, ahead of Meyer of Switzerland and Halvorsen of Sweden. But in terms of shooting speed, Minkinen actually shooting quite slow for stand, or at least relative to some of the other visits we've seen, with 20.8 seconds. That is calm and collected, I would say disciplined shoot. Sometimes there's no need to go too fast, particularly if your routine is around about the 21 second mark.
And look who's fought her way back into this. Jan Richard will break the line at 4.6 kilometers in 4th, and ahead of her within touching distance now is Lea Meyer and Maya Klotens of Belgium. Suvi Minkinen still working her way around, but the battle, here it is behind. Suvi Minkinen can maybe start to relax just slightly. A look over the shoulder from Maya Klotens as Lea Meyer desperately fighting. You can see as she gasps for air and plants her poles. It is Jan Richard who is chasing.
She needs to fight for absolutely every second here. She is closing that gap, and the duo ahead of her know that she is hot on the chase.
So here we go. She's fighting so desperately, Lea Meyer. You can see the way she's planting her pole. She is trying to take everything to propel her forward. Will Jan Richard run out of time? It looks like it may be the case. They'll take one turn and they'll be onto the purple carpet. And Jan Richard, it just looks like she might not have it here. It will be a real push to the line for Maya Klotens. Suvi Minkinen looks over the shoulder. She has done more than enough. Controlled shooting, cool, calm and collected, and was able to ease down on the final lap. She's pushing all the way to the line, Richard, and that was so close, but it's Maya Klotens who gets there. Disappointment for Jan Richard. We'll keep our eyes on the time. It may, I think it will just be enough. She has done enough to make her way through into the final as one of the lucky losers, and she had to fight so hard through it, Jan Richard, but you doff your cap as well to Lea Meyer. who was taking every gasp of air and doing everything to propel herself forward in the end. What a thrilling final heat.
Absolutely fantastic. And yes, she actually just got in there ahead of Klemencic, who unfortunately I believe is 14:02 was the time to beat, and she managed to get in 13:58. And that's just my very quick math, so forgive if there's a couple seconds either side there, but I do believe she has made the lucky loser.
No, she certainly has. As you say, Scott, 14:02 was the mark she was trying to reach. The race was won in 13:51.2, and exactly 7 seconds behind Suvi Minkkinen was Jean Richard. So more than enough done. We will wait for that to be confirmed, of course. You see Darcy Morton down on all fours, and well, you have to say, what a brilliant day from the Australian. 10th in her heat, inside a minute off the pace, but that shooting was really incredible. So look back at some of the highlights from our fourth and final heat of the women's race. Past the pole was the name of the game for the first lap. As having to fight back from a damaged pole, Jean Richard recovered herself well, 3 misses, and it all came down to that final lap, and she had to work so hard to put herself in contention to try and squeeze past on the line. She wasn't able to do that in the end, but a lucky loser spot for Jean Richard sees her through to the final. Suvi Minkkinen flying.
Yeah, sometimes a couple seconds disadvantage or inconvenience with a pole break like that can actually relax you to some strange extent, because the rhythm, the intensity, whatever expectations you had are suddenly shot, and you have to react to an active situation, an active setback, and sometimes a distraction can be really beneficial to performance. I wouldn't say it's worked entirely that way for Richard, but she has managed to secure the top spot, or the lucky loser third spot, and will be in the final, where she can fight again and hopefully not have that inconvenience.
So just like that, heat 4 done and dusted. Confirmation of the final results from our fourth and final heat. Battle all the way to the line for the automatic qualifying places, and you do feel, Scott, that helps when you have those battles that go all the way through the race. When you look at the races or the athletes who have come through in the lucky loser spots, their races were set out that way. Let's hear from Suvi Minkkinen.
Here in this atmosphere with these crowds cheering so loud.
Oh, it was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I think the morning was a little bit tough because all the nerves, and then it was a little bit also like, am I focused enough for racing now? But when we started, then it was really fun.
Now a little bit of a break before the finals. What will you do to recover?
Some cooling down, I don't know, maybe a little bit roller skiing, and then some snack, and then I will be ready for finals.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Well, minus the roller skiing, Scott, that sounds like exactly what we're about to do. A bit of cooling down, a bit of recovery, maybe a snack, and then we'll be on to the 2 finals to come later on this afternoon. Here is the start list for the final. Lou Jean-Monod and Lisa Vitozzi. The battle resumes after the 23-24 season, where Lisa Vitozzi took the total score globe. Unflappable in her race, and well, great to see, and the confirmation there, of course, that Jean Richard, well, she'll be starting further back down the grid in 15, owing to that lucky loser position. She'll have to bide her time. Here is the start list for the men's race, where on the front row, Tero Seppala, Eric Perrault and Vyacheslav Hornig. Isak Frey, the youngster, up there as well. Bjorn Surum had to fight back, didn't he? How much will that cost him in terms of energy later on? We will have to wait and see. We will be back for the men's super sprint final. That gets underway at 3:39. We'll be back to bring you all the build-up just a little before that, and then following on the women's super sprint final at 4:20. We hope you can join us then.